We will be starting in less than a minute. If you would like to sign up to speak, please do so now. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Oh. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out to our 3 o'clock workshop/council meeting. Let the record show that all council members are present. We will have the invocation by Mr. Edmund Jones, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Sagara. Would you all please stand?
As we come together with all minds and hearts clear, we ask our Heavenly Father to touch this city council, go up and down that dice, touch each one's heart. Oh, Heavenly Father, that they will do, as they continue to do, the best job that's possible for them to do. Asking your guidance, protection, and wisdom. And, oh, God, for everyone within this chamber, God, we ask you to touch their hearts and minds, that no one will speak evil or harsh about anyone in this council, God. Oh, God, if you cannot speak evil and good, don't say anything at all, God. We ask you, God, to order our footsteps and regulate our minds. We realize, God, that many that would like to be here tonight, they cannot be here. There are those in the hospitals and byways. Touch them right now, God, as only you can do. Then, oh, God, continue to order our minds and regulate us, that everything we do will be for obedience and present to your sight and to your glory and for your glory only. Continue, God, to just touch this council, God, with wisdom and guidance. And then, God, when we have done all that you assigned these hands to do, we ask that you would give us a home somewhere in your kingdom where we may praise your name forevermore. These and all blessings we ask in your holy and righteous name. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Jones and Councilmember Sagara. Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Now we will do the approval of the agenda. Did you click on? Okay, anyone? Councilman Boyd?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Councilmember?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Council, we will now go over our weekly work session, which is our workshop. Each one of you have 3 minutes to speak 3 times each. Madam Secretary.
MN 24020, consider minutes of special city council meeting of July 23rd, 2024. RS 24139, consider a memorandum resolution dissolving the Crime Solutions Committee.
Thank you. Council, I just want to make one correction. Last week, I made a statement that I was on the committee as a chair. What I should have stated is that I was the council member on the committee to replace the chair. Not that I was the chair, but I was the new council member. So I want to make sure there's no misunderstanding. Are there any questions on that item? All right, City Attorney Clemens.
This is a Crime Solutions Committee item. Just a bit of background, this committee was established by City Council in March 2021 via resolution. On August 6th, City Council considered dissolution of the Crime Solutions Committee, citing the availability of other opportunities for the city to engage in crime solutions and the cancellation of meetings due to lack of a quorum. City Council passed a motion of direction to dissolve the Crime Solutions Committee. Because the committee was established by resolution, a resolution is required to dissolve the committee. So the alternatives are to dissolve the Crime Solutions or do not dissolve the Crime Solutions Committee.
Thank you. Council, last week, with the exception of Councilmember Adams, you all voted unanimously to dissolve the Crime Solution Committee. Also, the vice chair of the committee, who is very active in the committee, showed up, and she also stood in agreement with the council to dissolve the Crime Solution Committee. And what I stated last week, not only not having quorums, but we have our city staff to come out and to present a presentation to the Crime Solution Committee. And when you don't have a quorum, you're wasting their time. And the most important factor in that meeting, we call Chief Lopez on the speakerphone with the 3 people that was there, including myself, and he stated that he also has an advisory board. It's open up to the community if you would like to fill out an application for it, but it is so similar to meeting the mission of the police department. And that's basically what the Crime Solution was, to assist with coming up with solutions to whatever the issue was in the city at that time. And since he already have doing a advisory committee, that there's no need for us to have it because they are the expert, and it is open up to the residents to put in an application. With that being said, any other comments? You on the phone? Any more? Okay. Madam Secretary, can we move to the next item?
RS 24140, consider a memorandum resolution approving the Killeen Arts Commission grant recommendations for fiscal year 2025.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mrs. Straight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this item is for the Killeen Arts Commission FY25 Grant Awards.
I'm sorry about that. I'll need to find some batteries for this. Francisco, can you forward the slides for Ms. Drake, please?
So the Texas Tax Code 351 requires the hotel occupancy tax revenues to be spent in a timely manner that directly enhances and promotes tourism, the convention industry, and the hotel industry. It authorizes municipalities to allocate up to 15% of hotel occupancy tax collections for the arts, and the FY25 grants to the arts allocation is $305,200. So the Arts Commission funding, this is some history back to FY 2021. It also shows the ARPA allocated. There were $394,905 Of that, $348,123 has been spent, and $46,782 is pending. And this shows the FY25 amount of allocation, $305,200. So this shows the grant award process. It started back in March, and there was a grant application workshop. There was the grant applications were due in April, and then the Arts Commission evaluated the grant applications and made their recommendations in July. And these are their recommendations for the 7 different entities for a total of $305,200. So your alternatives are to not approve, amend, or to approve the Arts Commission grant recommendations. And our recommendation is to approve the Arts Commission grant recommendations. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. There are no questions. Madam Secretary.
RS 24141, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing an agreement with Johnson Fitness and Wellness for the purchase and installation of fitness equipment at the City of Killeen Family Recreation Center in the amount of $177,563.51.
Good afternoon, Mr. Provost.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and citizens of Killeen. The Family Recreation Center originally purchased equipment at the time of the facility opening back in 2008 and replaced approximately half the equipment in 2013. No new major equipment purchases have been made since 2013. Moreover, modern workout machines have advanced considerably since the facility's opening in 2008. The current equipment has experienced extensive use, wear, and tear, and is in need of replacement. Quotes have been obtained, all of which were on buy board vendors such as Marathon Fitness, Fit Supply, Johnson Fitness, and Wellness. The lowest responsible quote was from Johnson Fitness and Wellness buy board contract 665-22. The purchase of the fitness equipment will total $177,563.51, with $98,426.52 being for the Lions Club Park cardio equipment and $79,136.99 being for the LCP strength equipment. The fitness equipment manufacturer standard warranty encompasses coverage from the frame to wear items like headphone jack, USB ports, batteries, and straps. The length of the warranty varies on the specific parts, ranging from 1 to 10 years, and is based on protecting against manufacturer defects. And then here's a few photos of some of the equipment that's going to be placed within the FRC. Oh, go back one. And staff recommends council approve the quote for the outright purchase of the fitness equipment for the Family Recreation Center from Johnson Fitness and Wellness buy board contract 665-22, totaling in the amount of $177,563.51.
Thank you, Mr. Provost, for that presentation, and thank you and your staff for updating our equipment in the gym to make us competitive with the other gyms in our area. Thank you all, because it's been a while since it's been updated.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
RS 24142, consider a memorandum resolution awarding bid number 2431 to TTG Utilities, Inc. for the Taxiway E relocation project at Killeen Regional Airport in the amount of $6,844,245.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, Mr. Wilson has the next 2 items. Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The item before you tonight is the rehabilitation project for Taxiway Echo at the Killeen Regional Airport. For a little background, that is the portion of the taxiway that connects our ramp to the main taxiway there at Killeen. It's needs rehabilitation. However, due to changes in FAA taxiway design standards, the rehabilitation of this taxiway requires a relocation to meet the new safety standards. City applied for and received an FAA Airport Improvement Grant for the design of this project. Project design is now complete and bids have been received. Construction phase of this project will be funded through a combination of funding through our normal FAA, AIP, FAA discretionary funds, which we competed for, and a community project funding grant supported by Congressman Pfluger. And the match for these grants will come from our PFC fund. Absolutely no impact to the operational fund or fund balance of the airport. Advertising began on May 12th. We advertised in a local newspaper, city website, multiple statewide electronic bidding sites. We held a pre-bid meeting on May 21st, 24, with 5 general contractors and some subs. Bids were open on June 12th. We had 3 bids received. You see the bids there. A thorough review of each bid package was completed by the airport's consultant and the airport staff. One of the bidders, Cage and Cade Construction, was disqualified for having an incomplete bid due to incomplete bid forms, had some missing blanks, incomplete DBE documentation, and insufficient good faith efforts. The lowest responsive bidder was TTG Utilities with a submitted bid total $6,844,245 for the recommended bid schedule of concrete taxiway pavement section and add alternate 1, which is 15-foot asphalt shoulders for safety. Airport staff and consultant reviewed and believed that TTG Incorporated meets all of the bid requirements and is the best value for the Killeen Regional Airport. TTG is a seasoned contractor that has performed multiple projects on the airfield for both us and Fort Cavazos. Our recommendation is that City Council award the construction contract to TTG Utilities in the amount of $6,844,245 for the relocation project and authorize the city manager or his designee to execute all contract documents and any and all change orders or actions within the amount set by state and local law. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. As me and Mr. Cagle and our Assistant City Manager Wilson, as we was discussing this item this week, I just want to say thank you for ensuring that there was a fair and balanced process with the applications, that you thoroughly check them. If there's any mistakes, you make sure that person know that this is the reason you did not qualify to compete with the others. Thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much for that.
We communicate that with them very early.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 24143, consider a memorandum resolution approving a professional services agreement with Garver LLC for the construction phase of the Taxiway E relocation project at Killeen Regional Airport in the amount of $781,036.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, ma'am. Again, this is the companion item to the item that I just briefed. It's a professional service agreement with Garver for the Taxiway E project. Again, this is the slide that I just briefed earlier. Relocation of the Taxiway E. City applied for and received FAA grants for the design phase. The project design has been completed and bids now have been received and were opened on June 12th. The acceptance of this recommended bid will be considered under separate agenda item, which I just briefed. The construction phase of the project will be funded again through a combination of funding, which we discussed earlier, FAA, AIP, FAA discretionary, and the community funding grant. And the match will come from the PFC. Again, absolutely no impact to the operational fund or fund balance. As we spoke before, the FAA requires federally funded projects to have professional, experienced oversight and documentation of the construction. Garver LLC is the airport's engineer of record and was selected in accordance with state law. Staff's negotiated a professional services agreement with Garver in the amount of $781,036 for the construction administration, on-site resident project representative services, which are the inspections, construction materials testing, and all the closeout services that are required by the FAA. And this is just a breakdown of the funding, 90% federal and 10% PFC funds. Again, absolutely no cost to the city. Our recommendation is that City Council approve this professional service agreement with Garver LLC in the amount of $781,036 and recommend that the city council authorize city manager designee to execute all contract documents and all change orders within amounts set by state and local law.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. There are no questions of you. Madam Secretary.
RS 24144, consider a memorandum resolution approving the appointment of an executive director of human resources.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, Mrs. Barr has the next two items. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. The item before you, as the city secretary said, that the recruitment for the executive director of human resources, which is a replacement, obviously, for me. So it's kind of bittersweet, but it's kind of exciting at the same time. But let me tell you a little bit of background and what we did in trying to find the right person for this position. So I will be retiring on October the 4th. And I turned in my letter back in April to give the city enough time to find a good candidate. And so what we did is we advertised on the city's website. We did advertisement on TML website. Also, the Texas Municipal League has a human resource website. Central Texas SHRM, and we did all of that, and we received several applications. Actually, 50 of them were qualified candidates. And out of those 50, we were able to narrow it down to 6 that had municipal government experience. And then from those, we narrowed it down to 3. And those 3 actually interviewed with city leadership on July the 22nd. The city manager extended a conditional job offer to Ms. Kate McDaniel. I'm going to make a correction on her experience. I had misread her resume. She actually has 18 years of experience versus the 25 in human resource, and 3 of those were in the public sector, and then the rest has been with the city of Killeen and a little bit of where she used to work before here. So she has, currently she's our assistant director for human resource with the city of Killeen, and prior to this role, she served as a risk manager for us for 6 years. Ms. McDaniel received her bachelor's in business management with a minor in psychology from North Central College in Naperville, Illinois. Ms. McDaniel serves as the American Disability Liaison, and what I mean by that is that she does all of the employee accommodations or workforce accommodations. It has nothing to do with public facilities or anything like that. So it's basically just our employees, when they need a part, come in and work part, for a little bit until they get fully well, then she finds an accommodation for them. She is also our primary investigator, so she supervises all of the investigations that come through our office. And she does all of the legal compliance to that, especially anything that's with Title 6-7 harassment, sexual harassment, discrimination, or retaliation. She also is our leader in the policy handbook, so we review our handbook several times throughout the year, and she is our lead on that. And she's also a person that has helped create various compensation structures in the past 10 years that we both worked together, and she has also supported the transition of self-funding. So I went backwards, didn't I? Yes, I did. All right, Ms. McDaniel has played a huge role in several of our projects in human resource. She has facilitated and she's been a function leader for our Supervisors Academy that we have for all of our supervisors. She also has led citywide conversions with the electrical timekeeping system, as well as the performance management system. And the human resource project she is currently on right now is our conversion into the new HRIS system. So staff recommends that the City Council approve the city manager's appointment of Ms. Kate McDaniel as the City of Killeen's Executive Director for Human Resources. And I'll answer any questions you may have. And she is also in the audience if y'all have any questions for her.
I just want to say congratulations. I think it shows what a great person you picked, because I want to identify all these people in the back. And when you have such support, within, these are the people that really know her. And when you have people come in and support, that means that you hit it. You did a great job in selecting one from within. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Ms. McDaniel.
I know we're going to get a chance to say this later, but I think I'm a fan of reaching out, and I see that we did that 50 applicants, and I'm no doubt that we picked the right person. Well, when we vote, we'll be picking the right person. And it kind of adds, considering your service to the city, that you had somebody that you basically trained to do the job, and I think that's a positive. And so I know I'm gonna get a chance to do this later, but thank you for your service.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right.
RS 24145, consider a memorandum resolution approving the appointment of an executive director of Parks and Recreation.
Well, again, here I am, and this might be my last executive director I get to present to y'all. The item before you is the executive director for Parks and Recreation. And again, let me give you a little bit of history on how we came about with our applicant. The Parks and Recs director previously resigned on May the 10th. And then in April the 29th, we posted the vacancy again on our city's website. We also did the Texas Municipal League, which is pretty standard, but then we reached out also to the Texas Recreation of Park Society and the National Recreation of Park Society websites, and also we posted it on Indeed. So 50 candidates there were several candidates, but 50 of them qualified for the position. We were able to narrow it down to 6 finalists that had some kind of municipal government experience. And then we narrowed it down to 3. And then after that, we visited with those in person with city leadership. But then we also invited the Parks and Recs Department's employees to sit on a panel. And also they interviewed and gave input on their new leader. So Mr. Cagle, the city manager, has extended a conditional job offer to Mr. Antonio Murphy as the executive director of Parks and Recreation. Mr. Murphy has about 20 years of experience in Parks and Recreation. He served in the city of Chester, South Carolina. I'm going to probably mess this up. Mecklenburg County Parks and Recreation in North Carolina. The city of Gastonia Parks and Recreation Department, also in North Carolina. The city of Baltimore Recreation and Parks Department in Maryland. And most recently, he has been with Chatham County, Georgia Parks and Recreation as the assistant deputy director. Mr. Murphy has demonstrated a strong leadership, in management and abilities in various of all the supervisor roles that he has taken on since 2003. He has experience in hands-on recruitment and leading outreach initiatives, as well as building a strong community partnership and partnering in citywide agencies, collaborations. Additionally, Mr. Murphy brings and is a proven ability to provide operational direction. He has a good strategic planning, policy compliance, and a solid understanding of the financial operations and fiscal responsibilities of Parks and Recreation. Mr. Murphy received his bachelor's in science and sports management from Winthrop University, Rock Hill, South Carolina. Staff recommends the City Council approve the city manager's appointment of Mr. Antonio Murphy as the City of Killeen's Executive Director of Parks and Recreation. And I'll answer any questions. He is in the audience, and his first day will be September the 23rd if you guys approve this placement.
Councilmember Adams.
Thanks. Just real quick, you had mentioned that you had employees do the interviews as well?
Yes, sir. We had a panel of employees from the Parks Department to sit on their own panel. We had our own panel with city leadership, and then we came together and got input from both.
Oh, that's outstanding. That's the only question I wanted to clarify. I've seen his resume and I have no issues or questions for Mr. Murphy.
Mrs. Barr, we thank you all, but I would like for both of them to come up here and just say a quick statement, just to introduce themselves. We already got their resume, and the council will make the decision when we go into our council meeting. So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Kate McDaniel, your Assistant Director of Human Resources currently. So I guess I just want to say how grateful and supported I feel by the city staff, current and past, to have been extended this offer of employment. And I look forward to continuing to serve from this new vantage point. It may sound kind of kitschy, but the City of Killeen offered me my first job when I moved here, and it's felt like home ever since. So,
thank you.
thank you.
Sir?
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, distinguished council members, audience members. I'm Antonio Murphy. I want to thank the executive management team for the endorsement of my skill set to be able to come and lead such a vibrant, growing entity with many roads of success. I like to believe that I'm a consensus builder, a team builder, so I'm excited to come to the city of Killeen and offer my services and gratitude and become a member of this community.
Thank you, sir, because your job is cut out for you. Thank you.
All right.
Mrs. Barr?
Yes.
Once again, thank you and your team for going beyond to ensure that we have the best leadership for the city of Killeen. Thank you on
Yes.
behalf of the council and Team Killeen. Thank you both. Thank you. Madam Secretary.
RS 24146, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing an agreement with Freedom Urgent Care for medical services at the estimated cost of $65,000 for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you. Mrs. McDaniel.
Hello
Welcome
again.
back.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. The item before you is an agreement with Freedom Urgent Care for some services that they've been providing us for a number of years. Just to give a little bit of background, the City of Killeen is committed to recruiting and retaining and advancing qualified employees and applicants, and we use Freedom Urgent Care as one of the steps in the process to do so. Freedom Urgent Care currently provides services for us in the way of pre-employment physicals for both DOT and non-DOT applicants and employees. They also do our drug screening and our alcohol screening for pre-employment and also for post-accident random drug testing, things of that nature. They provide services for us with regards to work-related injury and illness, vaccinations, if applicable, depending upon the position, and they also do our promotional examinations for our police and fire departments. Our prior service agreement was signed in September of 2018 with Freedom. However, 2024 is the first year that we've cusped the $50,000 threshold, which is why we are coming to you this afternoon. We do have this item budgeted across multiple professional services accounts, the primary being the general fund account, which is housed in the Human Resources Department. Some of the reasons that we're here in front of you today include a growing number of applicants and employees. I will say that right now, at this moment in time, we have one of the lowest unfilled position rates that the city's seen in the last 5 years. So we have essentially more butts in seats. And so therefore, we've hired more people into those positions this year. So we were anticipating, based on previous trend, about 220 people going through our pre-employment processes. And we're now projecting that closer to 300 by the end of this fiscal year. Additionally, our civil service examinations are much more in-depth, much more expensive. But also, we anticipated 57 of those. We're now projecting closer actually, we've already done 77 year to date. So as you can see, because we have a lower number of vacancies in the cities, that means we've brought more people in, which has kind of led us to coming to you today. Additionally, as with everything healthcare related, the cost of services has increased with Freedom. This is just a quick chart to show you some of the breakdowns of the increases in fees. As you can see, the largest do reside with those civil service examinations. Again, those are just far more in depth because of the type of work that they do and the physical requirements of those jobs. So again, this lends us to be over that $50,000 threshold. Freedom Urgent Care has provided us with a lot of advantages. They are a local vendor. They have 2 locations in Killeen and 1 in Harker Heights, which makes it very easy for our employees and applicant group to make an appointment with them locally. Also, they perform a variety of services to our specific needs. As you can imagine, especially with the civil service realm, the things that are involved in those promotional services and those pre-employment services are involved. And so they are able to do that with us, and again, multiple convenient locations. However, because of the amount of money, we did secure additional bids. We received one from Nova, which their bid was a little bit lower. However, they're located in Temple, and so the proximity is not as convenient as what Freedom provides. And also Integrity, which is local. However, they weren't able to provide us the gamut of services that Freedom also is able to provide to us. So that being said, staff recommends that we authorize the expenditures for services with Freedom Urgent Care in the amount of approximately $65,000 for FY '24, and also to enter into a 3-year service agreement with Freedom for a total agreement in the amount of approximately $217,800. And this service agreement would end in August of 2027. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And you answered one of my questions already. Were there any other vendors? And I appreciate that. And I appreciate that they're local. I did have a question on the 3-year. Does the cost elevate over the period? Because when I
Yes.
multiply that by 3, it doesn't.
Yes, so we anticipate a slight increase in cost year over year for just general inflation for the cost of services. Additionally, we know there's some positions that you guys might be approving in this year's budget, so we anticipated for those too, which would increase the number of people that we send through those services. I also would like to point out that just because somebody goes through this process with us doesn't actually mean they make it to the higher point. So even though we might have, say, 10 or 15 vacancies in the police officer role, we might actually have to do physicals for 20 or 25 people to get all of those spots filled, if that makes any sense. So the number of examinations that we do is generally greater than the number of employees that we actually hire.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
RS 24147, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a letter of agreement with Prestige Worldwide Technologies for 4 clay valve control valves at pump station number 4 in the amount of $53,561.76.
Thank you. Council, Mr. Reynolds has the next 4 items. Good afternoon, Mr. Reynolds.
Madam Mayor, Council, as the mayor just stated, I do have the next 4 items. The next 2 kind of go together. They're both in the same location, going to be at Pump Station 4. As most of you know, you've done the tour with Water and Sewer and myself and seen the complexity of the water system that we have and the needs for some maintenance within those pump stations and lift stations. So we're going to start that this year with doing a little maintenance to get them back up to speed. This is a little agreement for control valves for pump station number 4. What a control valve does is it's an automatic valve in the pump station that regulate the startup and shutdown of the system to minimize the hydraulic surges you might have that causes damage to our infrastructure downstream. So that's what the clay valve does within the system. A little background, Pump Station 4 was built in 1986 and is one of the 2 pump stations that provides potable drinking water for Killeen's upper pressure plant. This site pumps an average of 50 million gallons per month into 2 ground storage stations that are located on McMillan Mountain, which is east of Bonnie Trail. Control valves have the life expectancy of 20 years. 2 of those were installed when the station was built in 1986, and they have not been replaced. We've just been doing patch jobs to rehab them over the years, but it's time to replace them. And 2 of them were actually installed in 1995 as part of an expansion project, which also puts them past their 20-year life expectancy. Prestige Water Worldwide Technologies submitted a quote from Buy Board for contract number 717-23 to provide and install 4 clay valve control valves in the amount of $53,561.76. Clay valve is just a brand of the control valves that's going to be going into these pump station. This is a picture of a clay valve, and what you see here with this big round circular device here, the components inside is what we're going to be replacing, not the actual exterior. Exterior is still good. What you have in there, you got upper and lower shafts. You got seals in there, diaphragms, gaskets, things of that nature that go out, and we've been replacing over the years. We can just go through and do a complete rehab job of that clay valve. And staff recommend the City Council authorize the city manager or designate to execute a letter of agreement with Prestige Worldwide Technologies in the amount of $53,561.76. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
RS 24148, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a letter of agreement with Austin Armature Works LP for 3 pumps at Pump Station Number 4 in the amount of $114,968.
Okay, this is also for the Pump Station 4, and we're going to be replacing 3 of the 4 pumps there that's located at that location. And what the pumps do, they move water throughout the system, working in conjunction with the clay valves. Okay. The next slide, the background is pretty much the same as the previous slide. Throughout the life of each pump, repairs have been made continuously to keep these things working for us, and they've met their life expectation as we talked about with the clay valves. And Austin Armature Works by board contract 672-22 has provided a quote to install 3 pumps at Pump Station 4 in the amount of $114,968. The reason we're only replacing 3 of the 4, one of them was replaced within the last 10 years, so it's still in very good working condition, so we're just going to replace 3 of those valves. As you can see here, this is valve number 1. That's the component that will be replaced. Number 2, 3 and 4 will also be replaced. Number 2 has already been replaced. And staff recommends the city council authorize the city manager or designate to execute a letter of agreement with Austin Armature Works in the amount of $114,968. Available for any questions.
RS 24149, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a letter of agreement with the Brandt Companies LLC for 4 variable frequency drives at lift station number 2 in the amount of $75,927.
Okay, and then as we're doing maintenance on our pump station, we're also trying to simultaneously do maintenance on our lift stations as well as we go over this next 5 years to try to get them all back into get a working order. The letter of agreement for the replacement of the VFDs. VFDs stands for variable frequency drives. They control the speed of the motors that are located within the lift station. Lift station number 2 was built in 2005 and is the 3rd largest wastewater station in the city of Killeen. On average, 40 million gallons of wastewater per month is pumped through this site into the Bell County Water Control and Improvement District Number 1 South Wastewater Treatment Plant. This site primarily handles wastewater flows from the eastern half of the city, as well as flows from several other smaller lift stations within our infrastructure. Variable frequency drives save energy by delivering the expected flow at the lowest suction and boost possible. 4 VFDs installed at lift station 2 when the station was built, and the life expectancy is only 10 years for this piece of equipment, as that was put in 2005. So we almost have doubled the life expectancy of that piece of equipment. Brandt Companies from the buy board has given us a quote to install 4 variable frequency devices for lift station number 2 in the amount of $75,927. This is what the variable frequency device looks like within this lift stations. And as I stated before, a lot of y'all saw these when we went out there and did our tour. Staff recommends the city council authorize the city manager or designee to execute a letter of agreement with the Brandt Companies in the amount of $75,927 and authorize the city manager or designee to execute any and all change orders associated with this item. I'm available for any questions.
RS 24150, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a letter of agreement for the Brandt Companies LLC to provide and install 2 motor control centers, MCCs, for lift stations number 22 and 23 for a total amount of $130,671.
All right, the motor control centers, what they do within the lift stations provide monitoring and control for distribution of electrical loads to the pump. So it basically just regulates the loads as if it's like you have in a breaker box or something like that within your system. Lift station number 22 serves the area north of Reese's Creek and east of Bunny Trail, and on average pumps 16 million gallons of wastewater per month. Lift station 23 also basically serves that area, but it serves the west of Bunny Trail, and while the other one is the 22 serves the east of Bunny Trail. And lift station 23 pumps on average about 7.8 million gallons of wastewater per month. Motor control centers are required in lift stations as per Texas Commission of Environmental Quality, as it is an assembly to control electric motors in one control location for easy maintenance within the lift station. Motor controls centers have a life expectancy of 20 years, and we received a quote from Brandt Companies on the buy board for $130,671 to replace 2 motor control centers within lift stations 22 and 23. Cost of lift station 22 is $83,790, and lift station 23 is $46,881. You might want to know why the cost is different. In lift station 22, we have a 50 horsepower pump there, and in lift station 23, there is a 30 horsepower pump. So that's where the cost difference is at for those two items. This is what will be replaced for lift station 22 and 23. These are the control centers that we talked about. And staff recommends that City Council authorize the city manager or designee to execute a letter of agreement with Brandt Companies in a total amount of $130,671 and authorize the city manager or designee to execute any and all change orders related to this item. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Council. The 4 items that Mr. Reynolds discussed are maintenance items, that the wear and tear of equipment and parts which is needed to continue to provide the highest quality of water to our residents. There are no
Madam Mayor, I want to introduce Mr. John Wiley. He's the newly imposed manager of water and sewer. Water and sewer. I thought you was closing out. Go ahead.
That's okay, please.
You gave me the look, Madam Mayor. Like, sit down. I was just want to get it in there before I sit down.
But that's okay. Sir, please stand up.
Mr. John
Please
Wiley.
come up, sir,
He took
please.
Steve Conya's position within there. Steve Conya moved over to be the assistant city engineer, and he's now the lead man for water and sewer. So I just want to introduce him to everybody.
Yes,
ready
sir.
when
Thank
did your
you.
tours?
Please, yeah, I got you back, Mr. Reynolds.
Yes, ma'am.
Please say something to the council. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
My name is John Wiley. I'm with Killeen Water and Sewer. I've been there going on about 15 years now. Worked my way up from the bottom to where I am currently. Never really had a day here that I regret being here. So proud to serve the folks of City of Killeen. Thank y'all.
Thank you for being a part of Team Killeen. Mr. Reynolds, thank you for doing a great job. I'm sorry. Can I speak now? And don't take it serious. I was just playing. But Mr. Reynolds, thank you and your team for everything that you do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Madam Secretary.
RS 24151, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a construction contract with In Situ Form Technologies, LLC, for the water line rehabilitation Phase 1 project in the amount of $2,798,170.
Thank you. Council, Mr. Rivera has the next 2 items. Good afternoon, Mr. Rivera.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City
I'm
Council.
sorry, did I call you a council member? Oh, I'm sorry.
I
thought I
missed
called
it.
him Mr. Rivera. Oh, okay. You got a promotion, okay?
Okay. I'll do my best. So this item is a contract award associated with the Situ Form to replace water lines, about 10,000 linear feet of water line. According to our 2019 Water and Wastewater Master Plan, we established a water line replacement and rehabilitation project. All of this, when we say water line project, we're talking about that those water lines that is responsible for distributing and carrying portable or drinking water to your homes and to the businesses. In 2023, we had an analysis completed through a company known as Voda AI. And basically, that's a technology that uses machine learning. They analyzed a number of our water mains, as mentioned here, 700 miles of water mains, identified 100 of our top water mains that require attention as it relates to rehab and replacement. And as you'll note, and I'll have a slide that'll show this, most of those top 100 water mains were located in the older part of our city, north of I-14 and west of 38th Street. In doing this analysis, we looked at the traditional design in terms of the analysis associated with replacing the water lines. We looked at the traditional design bid, and then we also used the buy-board approach and found that approach to be more cost-effective. Again, as I mentioned, this map really shows those water lines that are considered to be the most vulnerable. This is just our top 100. As we mentioned, most of those are in older parts of the city. As you can imagine, they've been in the ground for tens on top of tens of years, and there's most certainly an opportunity and the need to continue to replace them as often as we can. Citriform Technologies, as I mentioned, submitted a buy-board proposal to replace basically the top 20 most vulnerable. So we talked about the top 100 that you saw, and we also isolated that to the top 20 most vulnerable lines. And as I mentioned, that's about 10,000 linear feet of line replacement that will be done for $2,798,170. As noted here, Citriform has tremendous experience in doing these kinds of projects all over the state of Texas and several other states as well. So the request for council at the appropriate time will be authorize this construction contract that will allow for the replacement of about 10,000 linear feet of water line, and then also to allow the city manager to execute that contract in the amount of $2,798,170 with the Citriform, and to execute any necessary change orders as set by state law.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle. I just want to thank you and Mr. Cagle. Mr. Reynolds talked about his part, but the maintenance on our water lines, especially on the north side of Killeen, an area that I'm passionate about that has been overlooked for a long time. And just to do the maintenance on it, it will decrease some water notices. And I just think Mr. Cagle, under your leadership, how we're really focusing on things that we should have took care of 10 and 20 years ago. So when I say a city is in progress, you got to hit every area.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to use the revenue that you have to go in the areas that it's impacted the most. And your team, under the leadership of Mr. Cagle with the assistance of our city manager, you guys are really, we went over this, the slide deck, and we talked about the things that your department is doing.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
amazing, and I thank you all.
Well, kudos to Mr. Kanya.
Yes, he's here. Oh, sir, I'm sorry. See you.
He
Thank
leads
you,
this
too.
effort.
I did not see you.
He leads this effort. As
Great
Jeff
team.
mentioned, he's serving as our assistant city engineer now, and we're very glad that we have, this is a very proactive effort. You know, the last thing you want is to have a break.
That's right.
Because water lines are down, service is out, there's a whole lot of costs associated with emergency fix. This is allowing us to get to it. Very similar to what happens with power outages. You know, it's like the difference between a brownout and a blackout.
Right.
You know, brownout is something that's intentional and planned to happen. A blackout is what you wouldn't expect, and it oftentimes causes lots of trouble. So we're trying to get to it before we get to a situation where it causes a lot of trouble and harm.
Thank you so much. I just really want to highlight that, because we heard the negative things about what the city's not doing.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
the city does a lot of great stuff, and I just wanted to highlight that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question. You said that was the top 20?
Yes.
Are those the 20 most,
Top 100.
I think are we paying for just the top 20 or the top 100?
We're paying for the top 20.
Okay.
Yes, we're paying for the top 20, about 10,000
Can you
linear feet.
give a roundabout idea in your educated guess the state of required repair between those 20 and the other top 80 compared to the rest of the city?
I will let Steve address that specific question.
And the reason for that is, I know the stuff that's in that top 20 are kind of bad. What I don't want, as you said, we have mains, and I know in other parts of the city, we've had numerous breaks in the same area, and that affects also the ability for that pipe to maintain its consistency too. So, but go ahead.
Sure. Steve.
You can pause my time while they
Sure.
talk.
And I think it's real important also to realize this is just phase one of our new approach to this. You'll be seeing phases coming. And again, this is 18 of those top 20. So all of the over 7,000 plus pipe segments basically were prioritized. And so these are the worst of the worst. And we're just kind of going down the list. So again, we'll just kind of continue in that process, hopefully on a yearly basis, that we're going to be able to be bringing some type of waterline rehab project to you to be going in and replacing those pipes. Water lines are much more difficult than sewer to be able to find where the real problem is. Our past water line rehab approach had been going into an entire area and just replacing everything in that area. You don't know. I mean, there may have been 75% of that pipe that wasn't really that bad and didn't need to be replaced. This is a much more specialized, focusing in, honing in on, again, those that are the worst. So you'll see more of them coming in the future.
And then my other question is, I know there's some grants available both through Texas, and are we going to be applying for some of those grants to cover the costs of this and maybe expand our rehabilitation?
We will. We continue to look at those, and we will continue to look and assess of the viability of us being able to go down that road. Again, a lot of times we use that term grant. Most of the time, it's not grants.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I also know that
loans.
there's at the national there's some water infrastructure bills that may address this as well.
Sure.
So I'll just follow up with you. I don't want to delay time. Thank you.
Sure.
And I would say this, to your point, the Texas Water Development Board has a number of financial assistance programs. We have been in conversation with them. They host a number of workshops. We want to get one hosted here. So we'll continue to develop that relationship.
Okay.
If there are opportunities.
I know
we'll take
some of those
advantage
are grants and some of those are loans. I'm
Yeah.
more apt to the grant
Maybe
than the
a grant,
loan.
maybe a loan, but even sometimes a loan is pretty low interest.
Okay.
Or forgivable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, I'd like to thank you all. So you identified 100 and you have a top 20.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's 18 that's really bad. Okay, I just want to clarify that. Thank you both. Madam Secretary.
RS 24152, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a professional services agreement with Johnson, Mirmarin, and Thompson, Inc. for architectural engineering services to act as the city's independent representative for design-build projects in the amount of $724,096.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Revelle.
Yes, ma'am. To the Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, this item is an item I know there's been some conversation even earlier tonight about. So the park maintenance building, the fleet services building, and the police evidence storage facility and adjacent parking lot expansion will all benefit from this item on tonight. This item will allow us to engage a professional services that will allow us to move those projects forward. What's showing here, as you can remember, well, I'll just say in this last bullet, we're very concerned about moving those projects forward as quickly as possible. We've chosen to do a design build process. So typically, as you all know, we would engage a designer, that architect and engineer, and then they would do their work and their services, and then we would engage, put it out for bids, and then engage a contractor to do construction. This is different. This will be one team, and that's why it's called design build. We could do all that together, with the goal being that we receive, strong directive from the city manager, with the goal being to get this done as quickly as possible. So we did receive requests for proposals at the end of last year. As a result of that request, we've got 5 requests that came in that's providing these professional services, and we selected Johnson, Mirmarin, and Thompson. And we received a proposal from them for the amount of $724,096. Specifically, what they will be doing, wait a minute. Well, I thought I had a slide that spoke about that. But they're providing a range of services associated with project management, As you know, we need to develop these projects and fully scope them out, make sure that we've got all the programming in there from speaking with the parks director, from speaking with the police chief and the finance director as it relates to the fleet services building. And then we need to actually package a request for proposals that will allow for that design build team to come on and be engaged. And once they're engaged, then we can push things through the process toward designing the facilities and also constructing them. And I'll talk a little bit more about schedule because I know that's important. And so staff is recommending that this professional services agreement be approved for the amount that we previously stated. And at the appropriate time, we hope that the council will take that action. We know that it's extremely important to move forward with these projects, and so we're doing so. We know that the park maintenance facility is a top priority, and so we've already had a conversation with JMT, should they be awarded this contract, to work on a schedule that will expedite things. We're strongly believing that a lot of the work that needs to be done in order to at least get that parks maintenance facility ready for construction, turning of dirt can happen anywhere from 6 to 9 months from now. So we're working very hard to make sure that that's done. We anticipate construction of a facility like that, being done within a 12-month period. We believe that the police facility and the fleet maintenance facility can follow shortly thereafter. So it's just such that everything is done in a very timely manner. If there are questions, I'm available to answer, as well as our city engineer, Mr. Zagers.
Mr. Ravel, thank you and your team. These are some items that's been on the agenda,
Yes, ma'am.
the concern of the council ever since last year. And Councilmember Boyd and Councilmember Cobb, they should be the main one talking, because they push you.
My light is on, Mayor, my light is on.
They push you on this, so I'm glad to see that it's happening, and I'm really excited. Councilwoman Cobb and then Councilmember Boyd.
I am so excited. You know, you work year after year on a council, and you want to see this community grow. You want to see people have the things that they need to be successful. But
Yes,
to hear
ma'am.
what you just said, you deserve a big kiss from Grandma. I tell you, this is an exciting day. Thank you to you, Mr. Zagers, your staff. Man, I just can't wait to see the dirt.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
excited. Why are you not excited? I'm excited. Mr.
Yes,
Cagle,
ma'am.
I know I should not talk out loud, but I'm really excited. Can y'all not see this smile? I am so excited. Thank you. I'm glad, because I know that people are being taken care of. Seems like sometimes it takes so long, but it's worth it.
Yes, ma'am.
It is so worth it to make sure that everything is going well. You know, I wanted it done in 24 hours, but you got it. Yes.
Yes,
Y'all,
ma'am.
that's a good thing. Thank you,
ma'am.
sir.
Thank
you
you
to
all.
you and your staff.
Thank you all for putting the money in place. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and that's true. This is a result of the council, council action and prioritizing something like this. I appreciate this approach. This is going to help to collapse the time frames for this.
Yes,
So I
sir.
very much appreciate this approach. Hopefully more of this going forward. Myself and Councilwoman Cobb did take this tour together when we first came on council, and we toured all the departments, and we went to the parks maintenance facility. And I remember riding in that van, and they turned around and they said, "Hey, this is the parks maintenance facility." We said, "Okay," and said, "Would you want to go inside?" And it was like, "Well, keep moving. We've seen a lot." And something said, "Let's go inside." We went inside, and that's when it was determined this is a priority for our staff. And this is the project she's been mentioning, and this is very much
Yes, sir.
needed. The fleet services facility, that is huge for our city, because they need that space for these vehicles to fit in there and to do what's done to maintain our vehicles. Super excited about this need in the community. And as you see, there's needs, always needs, but the council's been working to prioritize and find funding for these. The question I had, and I'll speak too about the police storage building. Incredible need. Incredible. Been in there. You can barely put a paperclip in there. They need the space.
Yes,
So it's
sir.
good that we're on the track to get these things moving fast and quickly. But to get to the point, you mentioned that the parks maintenance facility will likely get started first. How long after until potentially fleet maintenance facility and then the police evidence storage building?
We do not have the final schedule, but we don't anticipate it being that long, sir. If I had to estimate, we're talking about within a month or so. It's not going to be that long. We're going to be working extremely hard to continue to push things through the process. We've seen one schedule. We've made some comments to that, and so that's why I'm saying it's not finalized yet. We want to make sure we got something that can work. But the goal is to get everything done as quickly as possible, but the park maintenance facility will be first.
Understood. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Revere, once again, that's just taxpayers' dollars
Yes,
at
ma'am.
work. And as Councilmember Board stated, it is much needed.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
PH 24030, hold a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2025 annual budget.
My bad.
Mr. Revere, you can brief it if you like.
You can do it if you
Go
want.
on. Take your time. You don't have to
I
leave.
promise you I can't do that.
Mr. Cagle.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we've had this presentation before. I'm ready to go through it again if you want, or if you want to wait and just have the public hearing, whatever your desire is.
So, council, we have had this proposed budget for a while. Do you have any questions on any items specifically for Mr. Cagle? And as he stated, we have to do the public hearing on it. The only person I see has a question, and anybody else, I stated this last time, when the budget came out, please send your questions to them so they can properly prepare. But we have Councilwoman Cobb. She has a question about the budget.
I don't have a question. I'm okay. We've changed it and we've looked at it and we've done a lot of things. I just want to tell you that the mainstream for me was getting those buildings fixed. And
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
it came a part of your budget. So I like that budget. I like it because people are being taken care of, this city. Good job.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
PH 24031, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance submitted by Avanti Legacy Westwood LP on behalf of WB Whitus Investments LTD, case Z2406, to rezone approximately 3.6277 acres, being Lot 1, Block 1, Fox Creek Commercial Phase 1, from B5 Business District to a planned unit development, PUD, PUD, with R3A multifamily apartment residential district uses. The subject property is locally addressed as 3001 Illinois Avenue, Killeen, Texas.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, Mr. Revere has the next 5 items. Mr. Revere, welcome back, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is a public hearing to rezone property located at 3001 Illinois Avenue from current B5 to planned unit development multifamily apartment residential district. Avante Legacy Woodwood is the applicant. It's a 3.6277 acre site. The star on the map shows the approximate location of the property. The aerial shows the actual location of the property, as I said, 3.62 acres. This is a view of the subject property looking to the north toward the church that's along there. And then that's looking toward the south, back toward the mall and CTE. And looking to the east and looking to the west. If approved, the applicant has a tax credit multifamily apartment development for seniors, 55 years and older, and it will be 102 units, 1 bedroom, 1 bath units. As you may recall, the City Council provided a resolution of support associated with the tax credits for this on February the 13th of this year. This aerial shows the location of the property along with the 102 units. I'll just mark a little bit. So those show the 102 units that will be placed here. This will be a 4-story development, so that would be 4 stories. Also, you will notice that, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, the buildings are up and to the edge here. That's part of what we asked for in the plan unit development. And that allowed, by putting the building up like that, that allowed for this parking to be in the rear. And that just kind of adds to the form that we'd like to see in this area for development. So we're excited about that, maintaining that urban form and putting parking where it needs to be. In addition to that, just to note on this, as you'll notice along this boundary here and along this boundary here, there are residential properties. And so there will be a screening device as a part of the plan unit development standards, a 6-foot masonry fence that will be on these boundaries that will provide some sound protection and some visual protection. In addition to that, all the landscaping that would have been around here and all there, what we've done is we've worked to kind of program a lot of that landscaping around and adjacent to that screening device. So again, trying to make good use of some of the tools and treatments on this site, that it provides a better development feel and a better character feel for the area. For the most part, I think I've addressed most of the standards. If there's something I miss, I'm sure I'll catch it when I see it. In terms of the specific, again, and some of this I've covered, and I'll just couch it this way. In terms of density, what we would allow on this site would be no more than 64 units based on the base zoning designation for multifamily apartments. We will allow no more than 64 units. So they are getting a density bonus, but they're really taking care of that by adding stories to the structure itself. The building height, we would normally require the height to be about 35 feet max. 4 stories is probably going to be about 45 feet, so to some extent they're getting some adjustment there as well. In terms of building setbacks, we really believe that this is a plus because we've asked for the buildings to come up to the front to create that urban form, as well as to put the parking in the back. And so we feel like that's part of a plus there in terms of their giving to us. And then in terms of the architectural standards, they're really meeting all of the architectural standards with the exception of the balconies. Instead of 100%, about 50% on the balconies. And then the change in the wall itself, they're basically saying that they like to see that change happen every 36 feet as opposed to 30 feet. So that's a small change, but for the most part, the architectural standards are being met. The open space, it's something that they're giving to us. So that 5% area there should be maintained as open space. And as a matter of fact, let me go back. That's a piece I missed. That's going to be here on this plan. And so they're given the open space with the amenities that are listed there, picnic areas with grills. In addition, as it relates to landscaping, as I mentioned before, this is really they're given and we are receiving, or to some extent, because they're meeting the landscaping requirement, but they're putting the landscaping where it's most needed, and that's buffering the properties to the east and to the north. So we feel like that's a plus for sure. As it relates to screening, I've already mentioned that the screening that they're putting in, and that's a giving to us. And then the parking, again, I believe that's a plus for them in the sense that they do not have to have 171 parking spaces, but we believe 171 parking spaces is not necessary. And so we're able to come up with something that works for their development. There's been a lot of studies related to parking, and trying to make sure that you minimize it, because oftentimes it's just not necessary and it's costly, and that cost actually drives up the cost of housing. And so we think that this is a plus all around. They will be fully meeting the parkland dedication requirements. You see the total park fees of $91,800. They will be fully meeting that. There will be no need for a traffic impact analysis. There's no impact associated with the flood zone. And then this site already has all of the city services and infrastructure in place. It is also designated as residential mix, so this development is consistent. This development request is consistent with the future land use of the place type. It's also a neighborhood infill. That's where we want to see. That's what we want to see infill happen. So this development lines up with the growth intentions for this area, as mentioned here in the type of growth. So it meets all of that as listed in the last bullet as well. This request is consistent with big idea number one. Reserving resources and stewardship, and then also big idea number 5, we're building neighborhoods, not just subdivisions, something that connects to the rest of the neighborhood and not just a subdivision. These are the comprehensive plan implementation recommendations that are being advanced. I won't belabor that. The development zone is 3, and you see the current zoning district breakdown there. Staff is basically of the opinion that this is consistent with the future land use plan. This is consistent with the character of the area, and there will be no adverse impact on surrounding properties. All public notifications have been accomplished. As a matter of fact, we received one written response in support of this particular request. And that, again, shows the notification extents. Staff is recommending approval at the appropriate time of this request to rezone this property from B5 to planned unit development, multifamily apartment residential uses as presented. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this case July 15th and took a unanimous vote to recommend approval of this item as well.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle. That was the most detailed planning and zoning agenda item I've ever heard, hidden, especially for me, the comprehensive plan, focusing on what the people want.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, with that being, okay, we do have 2. Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Revelle. This is a wonderful project. I mean, this vacant land has been there for a long time. Fortunately, that's where us politicians have always put our signs when we're running, so I don't know where we're going to put them now. But it's very unusual. I mean, I really, I don't know if we've ever done a project like that where you put the apartments closer to the road, so it's very unique. So my question is, because I used to live out there in that area, and that's a very good area because you're right across the street from our other housing project, which was low housing, but that's always been a home run. They've always taken very good care of it. But being that this is for seniors and it's being so close to the mall, I know a lot of seniors, they like to walk a lot, especially indoor to malls and stuff. So is this one going to have sidewalks on the outside, being that they put the apartments on the outside there?
Let's see. We typically, with our developments, if they're not sidewalks, we do require them, so yes.
Require them?
Yes, sir.
Because I know right now, I think that's going to be the only one, because that has a sidewalk in that side of the road, right? There's no other developments in that side that has sidewalks, I don't think, if I don't know.
It looks like there's some across the street from Illinois
Yeah,
Avenue.
across the street there is,
Yes, sir.
I know that.
Yes, sir. Yes, there appears to be. And so if there are no sidewalks here, there will be sidewalks adjacent to this building.
Yeah, no, that's good. My question is, because I think as you go further, there's probably already development or houses on there, and I just couldn't remember if there was sidewalks. So it's probably something that if there's not, and this would be the only area that there is sidewalks, then probably have to look in the future of adding sidewalks that go all the way down to what is it, Gray Wolf or something like that? I think that's the next street that goes into the Fox Street subdivision there. But I don't remember. That was the question. So if
Sure.
there isn't, then that'd be the only area with sidewalks, and then,
Yes, sir. We typically it's not when it gets into that development, that part of the development phase, sidewalks will be required. if there's a need to get further down, then that's something that we're going to have to
Yeah.
look into, because maybe that happens when that site developed, or maybe that happens as a part of some other kind of project. So I don't have a full answer for that, but I can tell you for this development, that sidewalks will be required. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Council, just a quick reminder, this is a zoning item. Councilmember Alvarez, it's a zoning item.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say kudos to the staff and to the applicant. We talked about a lot of this stuff during the comprehensive planning process, a lot of strong town principles in there, and moving these buildings up towards the road absolutely makes sense, not only from a functional standpoint, but from an aesthetic standpoint. Driving by, looking at oceans of asphalt is not very appealing. So by simply moving the buildings closer to the road and putting the parking lots in the back, it is a lot more aesthetically appealing, and it is more functional for the residents who are going to live there. So appreciate that. So thanks to you and the applicant.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
PH 24032, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance, case Z 2411, to rezone lots 1 through 6 and 8 through 16, Block 1, Sunrise Vista, from B3 Local Business District to R3F Multifamily Residential District. These properties are locally addressed as 1100 through 1102 and 1104 through 1115 Horizon Drive, Killeen, Texas.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Revelle, the next couple items are yours, so I won't call your name. They're just
Yes,
yours.
ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. This is actually, this request is slightly different. This is a city-initiated rezoning request. As you recall, probably about a month or so ago, there was a property owner along Horizon Drive that actually submitted their own request, and they were dealing with the issue of their property being legal non-conforming and the impact that was having on appraisals being able to be done, the property being able to be sold, and things of that nature, because of one of the requirements associated with legal non-conforming residential structures is that if it's completely destroyed, by some cause or whatever, that if it's completely destroyed, it can't be built back without a rezoning. And so we decided in conversation with the city manager that there was an opportunity to look all across the city and look for opportunities to address this. And so this is the first of many cases that we will try to bring to the city council, all in the effort of bringing these properties out of the status of legal non-conforming, so that they don't have some of those financial and real estate transaction impacts. These properties are located 1100 through 1102, 1104, 1115 Horizon Drive. I've already stated what we're doing. Stated what the objective was, and this star shows the approximate location of the properties under consideration. The aerial shows the actual properties here. All of these properties are fourplexes, but again, they've got a zoning designation that's not consistent with that. And so this shows a view of the subject properties looking north, looking south, looking to the east, and looking to the west. Again, these properties are has a residential mix, and so this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan in that regard. These are all located in infill, neighborhood infill, but to some extent, these don't matter as much. I mean, we're really just correcting something here, so I'm going to keep moving through. The staff feels strongly that the council should grant this request. The notifications, I will say this, we did this notification, but we also did a notification of each affected property. So all of these affected property owners received a notification as well. And basically the way that notification went is that, hey, the city intends to rezone this property. If you have an issue with it, please reach out to us and let us know. And none of these folks reached out. And some that did, they reached out to let us know that they agreed. So in addition to our normal notification, we're doing that notification, and we'll do that for all of these property owners so they're aware of what's happening, and if they have any issues, concerns, or questions, we can address those before this makes its way to you all for a decision. And again, there's really no need to talk about all of this. This is just trying to better position these properties. And staff is just recommending that this request be approved. This was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission July 15th meeting, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bell, and staff for lining up our city to ensure that we all have the correct codes for each one.
Yes, ma'am.
And then thank you for taking that initiative. Madam Secretary.
PH 24033, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance submitted by Quintero Engineering LLC on behalf of JSCH Properties LLC and Earl Horn, case Z2415, to rezone approximately 1.9 acres out of the George W. Cartwright Survey, abstract number 159, from R1 Single Family Residential District to B3 Local Business District. The subject property is locally addressed as 7003 East Rancier Avenue, Killeen, Texas.
This is a request to rezone property located at 7,300 East Rancier Avenue from R1 to B3. The applicant intent is to change the zoning to allow for commercial development with leased spaces. The star shows the approximate location of the property along East Rancier. This is the actual delineation of the properties, almost 2 acres of property. Looking at north, looking south, looking east toward the school, and west. Subject properties currently has a regional commercial designation, so the request to rezone the B3 is consistent with this regional commercial place type. Neighborhood infill, again, this is where we want to see development happen. This is where services already are, infrastructure already is, just filling it in. Furthering a number of comprehensive plan recommendations as noted on the slide. You see the residential use mix. All notifications were accomplished. To date, no written responses have been received regarding this request. This shows the notification extents and surrounding properties. You see the egress and ingress for this property. I will say that in terms of the traffic impact analysis, depending on what particular commercial use is put here, that will determine whether or not a traffic impact analysis is needed. It may not be needed, but it may, just depends on what that use is. And we'll have that information should this project be allowed to move further in the development process. Just showing that no floodplain impacts, water and sewer and utilities and services are already in place. No need to deal with parkland dedication because this is not adding residential density. Staff finds that this request is consistent with the comp plan and consistent with the surrounding character. Don't see any adverse impacts to surrounding properties. Staff is recommending approval as presented. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard on the 15th of July is recommending approval as well.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle. Madam Secretary.
PH 24034, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance submitted by Gina Cannon on behalf of Morris Venture Partners 5 LLC, case Z2416, to rezone a part of Lot 1, Block 1, 190 Retail Center, 3rd Edition, from B5 Business District to BC1 General Business and Alcohol Sales District. The subject property is locally addressed as 1600 Lowe's Boulevard, Suites 600 and 800, Killeen, Texas.
Thank you.
This is a request to rezone property from B5 to General Business and Alcohol Sales District, 1600 Lowe's Boulevard, Suite 600 and 800. If approved, the applicant intends to sell and serve alcohol on premise for on-premise consumption. This is a nail salon, mostly a nail salon, pedicures, manicures, and things of that nature. But they also will have, if this is granted, the opportunity to sell and serve on-premise alcohol, or alcohol for on-premise consumption, I should say. The star shows the approximate location. Again, this is just off of Lowe's Boulevard there. This is the actual location, as we mentioned, nail salon, bar. Just surrounding businesses. The property's already regional commercial, so the request is consistent. It's also neighborhood infill. Again, a lot of these things we can keep moving through. These are the comprehensive plan recommendations that would be advanced, the zone and district breakdown. All notification has been accomplished, no written responses to date. That shows the notification extents. The property has adequate access. And then in addition to that, there will be no need for a traffic impact analysis. No floodplain impacts, although it's next to Tremere Road Ditch or in the vicinity of Tremere Road Ditch. And then no need for parkland dedication because it's commercial, not adding residential density. All of the water and sewer services, city services are in place. We are, as staff, is recommending approval of this item because it's consistent with the comp plan and the surrounding character and no negative impacts. The Planning and Zoning heard this case on July 15th and voted unanimously to recommend approval of this item as well.
Madam Secretary.
PH 24035, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Killeen, providing for amendments to the subdivision plat approval process.
So this is making amendments to Chapter 26 of our ordinance. The intent of this is basically to remove the plat approval or to transfer the plat approval responsibility from the Planning and Zoning Commission to staff, to City Staff and Development Services Department. That's the intent. As you'll note on this slide, the state legislator granted this authority for cities to be able to do this back in September 1st of 2023. Again, with plat approvals, they're not discretionary. If they meet all the requirements associated with their plat, they have to be approved, and so staff, we validate it and we say, hey, it's good to go, and then we have to take it to planning and zoning, but planning and zoning can't just reject it. If it's good to go, it's good to go, so it has to be approved. So what we're seeking to do is to take advantage of what the state has made possible, and that's to allow this to be an administrative function. And you may ask, well, let me just continue and then I'll deal with why. Currently, we have at the staff level the ability to approve minor plats and amending plats. If you make this change, this will allow us basically to approve all plats, preliminary and final plats, all plats. As the ordinance says, it would designate the Executive Director of Development Service or designee to be responsible for approving these plat types, and it no longer will require Planning and Zoning Commission approval. The benefit associated with that is that you can shave off 2 to 4 weeks of review time associated with the preliminary plat, and about 2 weeks associated with final plat approval. So there's benefit in terms of time saving associated with that, in terms of continuing to move things through the process. And so this allows us to do that. And then you also have some time saving on the staff side. As you can imagine, You know, when we're preparing for a planning and zoning committee meeting, we've got to prepare agenda, we got to do minutes, and so there are time savings associated with that as well. There are other cities, this is not something new, other cities, there's nothing on the slide that's already doing this, Round Rock, Georgia, Georgetown, and Abilene. And so again, in addition to that, this ordinance is also looking to alleviate the amount of plating requirements associated with single-family and two-family dwellings in the North Killeen revitalization area. As you all know, the North Killeen revitalization area from Fort Hood to W.S. Young, that's what, west to east, and then from the northern boundary with Fort Cavazos to Hallmark Avenue and Terrace Drive. And so everything within that boundary in that area, we're looking to alleviate the plating requirement there under certain conditions associated with single-family and two-family homes. We believe that in doing that, and I'll just say this, it's not here, but in doing that, again, we're saving some time, but we're also most critically saving money. Because when you have to plat, there's a cost associated with surveying, there's a cost associated with engaging an engineer, and sometimes that cost could be $5,000 to $10,000. This will allow us at least in the North Killeen revitalization area for these kinds of things to move forward without that cost and without the time associated with the plat approval. So we think that this is a great way to remove some of the regulatory hurdles to allowing development to occur in the North Killeen revitalization area. This was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission on July 15th for informational purposes only, because by law we're not required to get a recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission. But they did share in their discussion that they felt like overall that this would save time and money to the applicants, and they had no objection to the proposed amendments. And so staff is recommending approval of this ordinance as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Revere. Councilmember Board.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll be quick here. Creating this efficiency in the plat approval process is great, that it reduces the amount of time, it shaves costs in a sense, and it achieves what's been called for a lot of folks who transact in our community. So thank you for looking into this, and it was also great to see that the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously approved this. So glad to have this efficiency in place moving forward.
Yes, sir. And they didn't have to consider it, but their consensus was that they agreed with everything you said. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And Mr. K. Revere, thank you, because the city staff is already doing that anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
I had some concerns about it because I wanted fair and balanced, but after talking to the assistant city manager in
Yes, ma'am.
reference about it, and she broke it down to me why this process is needed to move forward, and everything is in one central location.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no miscommunication. And thank you, Mr. Kager, after we went over it the second time for clarification. So
Yes, ma'am.
thank you both for that. Anyone else? Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Oh, did you want to say something? Okay. Anybody? Okay, no. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Sorry about that. I know we had citizen comments. So we will start our citizen comments. Mr. Michael Fornino, sir. Good afternoon. You have 4 minutes, sir.
Before I begin my time, I would request in advance 1 extra minute, as this topic has quite the depth and weight for me personally.
Yes, sir, you can ask it, but you have to wait till you get through, and it's up to the council to approve it.
Okay, so my time's already started. All right. Crime Solutions Committee. Well, for the people at home as well, let's get something straight. When I proposed the idea of a crime prevention committee, oh so long ago, it was hijacked by a council member who doesn't even bear mentioning at this point. And it was immediately turned into something it wasn't. And therein lies the failure. It was supposed to be a citizens' engagement between the police department, both school and city, the code enforcement, and any other interested entities in the city. And it was supposed to be a rolling forum. Immediately, that council member morphed it into Crime Solutions Committee and tried to morph it into a social engineering, social experiment, and try to get funding to have people who don't live in Killeen try to come in here and tell us what the crime problems were. His failure was his assessment of what crime is and is not in Killeen caused him to have a meltdown when he was called on his assessment and his character in the past. Whereas, for the record, after all of his hard labors and canceled meetings at the last minute started to generate disinterest in the committee as a whole, he assessed the #1 crime in Killeen, not murders, not burglaries, not assaults, not gangs, not drugs. I'm not saying this is not an important issue, but he personally controlled that agenda, set the agenda, and would not let any other items appear on the agenda. His personal assessment was our #1 risk for crime in this city was black teenage runaway girls, followed by shoplifting. That's a matter of record and on his agenda that he set. He didn't want to hear from the citizens. He only wanted what was on there, on his mind, his agenda, personally. At no point was crime. I attended the meetings. Again, this committee, in its inception, was my idea. It in no way conformed or comported to anything resembling my initial, very simple concept that would have only cost the city time, not money, not resources, just time and a place to meet. In that failure, again, I can walk away from this with clean conscience. If you want to dissolve it, that's fine, because as it sits, it's a disaster. It's useless. Yet this same committee that was my idea, none of you would allow me to sit on it. That's funny, but due to questions of character. But the person that hijacked my idea, transmogrified my idea, displayed his character one very famous night in this very chamber. It was not held fully accountable for his actions. That's the failure of that committee. In general, the council, that demonstrates the disconnect, as I've stated many times. The Killeen that a lot of you think that you live in is not the Killeen that many of us live in. Just plain and simple. The concept of a simple back and forth between people in authority in the city, and as I'm approaching the end of my minute, may I have one more minute?
Councilmember Adams. Well, sir, wait till he finishes. Some time got to go out. Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Sagara. Councilmember, okay, that's all I needed was 4. You have an extra minute.
Thank you. And again, I'm not blaming any member of the sitting council right now. I'm just stating that with the behavior, the character, and all that of the person who initially derailed it as it was, I'm just saying it's just an overall demonstration of you folks need to listen to the people. It was a simple concept that didn't have to get fancy, didn't have to have place settings and all the, it was supposed to be informal to encourage communication, to encourage a look at how the citizens saw things, how the police saw things, how the code enforcement saw things. That's all it was supposed to be. Like, citizens would ask, can we do this or that? And vice versa, what would work, what wouldn't. That's all. Just listen to the people. No yelling, no screaming. That's where the disconnect is.
Thank you, sir. Melissa Brown. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You have 4 minutes.
I'm very surprised there was no recess, so they could reset it and show that this is actually the meeting portion. But with that said, regarding the rec center upgrades, there are a lot of people who are very excited about it. However, the question has been posed multiple times about the cost benefits of buying the equipment versus leasing it, which would allow us to upgrade more often, make sure that things are fully covered under warranty sections, and we could have newer stuff without the additional cost potentially. So I was wondering if anyone had considered that and why buying was recommended over leasing. As far as the water lines, presentation said they only bid on 18 of the lines out of the top 20. So are they doing 18 or 20? What criteria did the artificial intelligence have to work with? What was the input, and how were these decided to be the worst in the city? Were there any other areas studied, or was it just this specific area? And then would we expect this to reduce boil water notices in the area because we would expect fewer water line breaks? As far as having a person under contract to essentially manage all of our bond projects, less the West Side Regional Park, for $725,000. Are they going to also be doing the bidding since they're doing the building, the build projects and the design? Or are we still doing the bidding? Are we giving them a budget? How is that going to be handled? I think that's very unclear. And then what staff oversight do we have? Or what council oversight will there be? Other than just turning it all over to a third party with no real interest in the city other than getting a paycheck. How do the citizens have security? I think that's a lot of the question. We just went through this. I heard very few questions the entire time that the work session happens, and we're expected to believe that you looked over the stuff and asked all the questions, but if it's not asked publicly, we don't know. When it comes to, I'm sorry, I did forget, their Freedom Urgent Care, question I have on that is, have we looked at other locations? I know they're local. I know they're easy to get to, but there are also other urgent care facilities in the area. There are private practitioners that could provide these same services. Have we put out a bid, or are we just continuing to work with them because now we've won over $50,000? And because it's convenient to stay with the same people? I think these are important questions to ask because it's money that is going to be added in. It's money that we have to be concerned about, and apparently we have to be concerned as citizens about the priorities. We just heard at 1 o'clock that the priorities are not us.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Following him is Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for clarity for the citizens to understand why Freedom Urgent Care was recommended. Here in the legislative text, it states Freedom Urgent Care is the only vendor in the area that performs the required services to meet our specific needs and pre-employment requirements. Freedom Urgent Care has been a partner with the city of Killeen for over 6 years and has ample convenience and availability for our employees, current and prospectives. That is why. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Ma'am, that was the point that I was going to make, that she did address that in her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sean Price, sir, you have 4 minutes. Good afternoon.
Madam Mayor, if I can real quick also.
Okay, sir, I'm so sorry. Councilmember Adams.
Yeah, and I believe that the presentation also stated that there were 4 alternatives. Please correct me if I'm wrong, just for everyone's edification.
Oh, yes. And also the presentation that was given by Mr. Revelle where you asked about the 20, and I wanted clarification. It was 100? That there were a top 20? and Mr. Connell said they only doing 18. I apologize. Mr. Price?
Stuff happens, right? It's government. And stuff happens, right? It's not a problem. Okay, so I'll be rising underneath Open Meetings Act 551.007, okay, for this evening. And that's due to my criticism, right? So there's criticism in what I'm speaking here tonight with these things here. And it's primarily to the money spent, right? We need to get a little bit more frugal with our money spent, right? 35 trillion in debt. Just because we're getting federal dollars doesn't mean that it's not coming out of our pocket. The federal dollar, we pay federal taxes. So just because it comes from the federal government or it's a federal grant, we're still paying for it. So it's still the money coming out of our pocket to buy these things that we're using federal dollars for. Just want to put that right there out in front to understand all my criticism for this evening on the subjects that I'm talking about. And second here, underneath 24-138, I appreciate the mayor with her correction, even though that she told me that I didn't say what she had actually said last meeting. So that was nice to see that correction, Madam Mayor. With RS 24-140, in this, there's $111,973 that's going to be spent for a item called Veggie and Art Fest. You know, out of the $305,000 for this art project, I'm just, you know, there's a lot of other different things in there that look like that should have taken place back in February, but it's just like, you know, there's a lot of money spent on a lot of frivolous stuff to me, if you look at the items that are inside there. So I think that's fraud, waste, and abuse going on in that section there. There's just a couple items that, you know, I don't know why we're doing Todd Sweeney, right? Spending 80-something thousand. I think it's 80,000. I could be wrong, but, you know, $80,000 for that. I don't understand it, you know? Okay, so carry on with congratulations to the new directors, by the way. It's all super awesome that we got, you know, consistency in city government from assistant director to, you know, the main director. My only question is that in this proposal and everything like that, her seat cost, you know, annual pay wasn't addressed. So none of us got to see that transparency of how much she gets paid or he gets paid annually. Underneath the Director of Parks and Recreation, is there any ecological certification or EPA certification underneath this individual? Because I didn't see any qualifications in that management. So that's a question I had there. Out of the free emergent care, right? Why doesn't our insurance that we paid $8 million for our employees, why isn't any part of that part of this DOT physical process? And or why isn't that part of their drug testing and so forth? Since we're already paying $8 million for their health care, why are we paying an additional $65,000 just for DOT physicals? They get a physical in their insurance, and it's already paid for. So I don't, you know, that's a double expenditure that I'm not really to understand why that was forgot about in the process of getting them health insurance. Just saying, it's just, we're just using another product for the same thing, their health insurance, DOT inspection. For everything that waste management and water, all those valves and the pumps and everything in there, just so you understand, the pump prices and those valve prices are awesome. Usually they're twice that cost for larger cities like Dallas and Houston. So that was an awesome work that was done.
Sir, your time is up. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the Arts Commission grants, those are nonprofits that supporting the.
Councilmember Adams, I don't mean to cut you off, but would you say the question that you're addressing so he'll know? And Councilmember Sagara, thank you for catching that time. Okay, back to you, Councilmember Adams.
On the question about the Arts Commission grants, I can't remember the exact name of the bodies, but those are nonprofit organizations within the city that have applied for the grant to reimburse themselves for the service they're bringing of bringing people to the city. So that's why the city doesn't set what exactly, as long as it meets the basic criteria that's within state law and city ordinance. The urgent care issue with Freedom Urgent Care, these are not people that are hired by the city yet, so they're not receiving they're not getting insurance, health insurance from the city to cover it. This is a hiring process before they actually come on. And some of the, as was stated in the presentation, some of them may not even come into the city to work for the city.
And thank you. So, we're paying Freedom Care to provide a physical, which is part of the hiring process. That's simpler. And we always use our Arts Commission from Hotel Motel to host all of our arts events. Everybody put in an application, they go through the process, and they have a board that does the selection. And it's our job, especially the comprehensive plan, to bring entertainment, community engagement, and family activity. There's no other thing you should do with that money but ensure that with that arts money, that families have activities and we're bringing our community together. That's it. Councilmember Boyd.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I just want to provide some clarity. There was mention of a Veggie and Art Fest getting funding. I'm not sure if there's a recommendation there for that.
It's stuff that was on the list. They had a list of all the.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't see Veggie and Art Fest on the list.
Oh,
of
okay.
recommendations.
It's not.
Yes, sir.
It's not.
Okay,
Sure.
we're going to stay focused. Mr. Boyd, Councilmember Boyd has the floor. Sir, the floor is yours.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I was just clarifying to the residents, those who are watching, that the ones we have are Viva Les Arts Children's Theater, the Artencia, if I'm pronouncing it right, Y Cultura, Hispania, Impact Outreach, Shanghai Bamboo Roots Association. It's all about youth talent services, the Armed Forces Natural Hair and Health, and Viva Les Arts Society. Those are the ones that are recommended.
Yes, sir. And thank you. Anything else, Councilmember Boyd?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you so much. For our residents at home, if you have any questions for our next council meeting, since we are in citizen comments, please do not hesitate to go to www.killeentexas.gov, and also for our residents here. And if you have any questions prior to our next council meeting, please submit your questions to our city staff or council. And you can also ask those questions here. I just want to make one correction for the good of the group, that individuals that may not ask questions here, as I stated earlier, I meet with the city council, city manager, and also the assistant city manager, along with other council members, one-on-one, and we go over the agenda in detail. So if you don't hear a council member asking a question, it's not that they just don't know. They just want the residents to have the opportunity to hear the presentation. And if they have a mishap on something, if they do ask a question, it's for clarification in most cases. With that, Madam Secretary, we're going to take a break, council, so we can reset up there for our council meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda items? Councilmember Adams?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve this consent agenda.
Councilmember Solomon?
Second.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. The motion carries 6 to 0 with Councilmember Boyd being in the back. We will now go into our public hearing. Council, you have 3 minutes each for 3 times. Mr. Cagle? Oh, Madam Secretary, I just skipped over you. I apologize.
PH 24030, hold a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2025 annual budget.
Mr. Cagle?
Yes, ma'am, if you want to.
Council, he just, after the public hearing, we want some input from our residents, and it will be coming back to you, unless you want him to go through the whole presentation. This is not our first time discussing this item. Council, what is your pleasure? Move forward? Move forward. All right, thank you. We'll now open up the public hearing. Mr. Michael Fornino, welcome back. You have 4 minutes.
Just some general commentary on the budget. No budget is perfect. No budget is going to please everybody. I think we can agree on that. In my engagement with citizens over the last couple of weeks, I've been at their front doors, I've looked them in the eye and listened to their concerns. And I will concede and agree, as it has been stated here many times, that with regard to budget shortfalls and everything else, yes, we have a larger population of disabled veterans, such as myself, in this area as opposed to other towns that do not sit next to a military installation at all. No argument there. However, when we look at the budget, there are things in there that just don't make sense. I mean, when it comes to, we pay a lobbyist $100,000 a year or whatever the last count was. The fact is that we pay a lobbyist, and a lobbyist is supposed to argue and advocate and help solve niche issues that have specifics. I mean, it's not like something that would be statewide, raising or lowering the drinking age or anything like that. And for the folks at home, you see this guy's name all the time, and most people don't know that he's a living, breathing individual. Stan Schluter, where has he been? I mean, if you pay somebody $100,000 a year, he better swing by more than once in the 10 years that I've been coming here, more, and have him just swing by to say hi. When's the last time we heard from this guy? That's $100,000 a year. That's more money than a lot of people in this town ever will see in a year. This guy just scoops it up, and he's a ghost. I mean, things like that. I mean, I will agree. I agree with just about 99.9% of most of the things as they are presented by many of you, and specifically Mr. Cagle, in honesty. But in this case, he does have a point. We spend $100,000 a year. We should be getting back more money. I agree. When will the council demand his presence or cut him loose? Hell, I'll do the job for $35 a year. I'll go down there. I'll argue with people in Austin. It's not my favorite town. I'll be in just the perfect mood to get in somebody's face down there. I mean, we can find better results, get better bang for our buck. That is most of the people that I've talked to in the last couple of weeks. That is their primary concern when it comes to the budget. Overall, just in general, they are not seeing a good return on investment. I mean, halo, halo, infantry, nothing in this world is free. That's as true as the day is long. And the folks are not seeing it. When it comes to taking care of the basics and taking care of what we have, roads, basic services, solid waste, can count on several trucks a week breaking down, no money for spares, no new trucks, et cetera. I mean, equipment problems, staffing problems with the police. I mean, we don't even have enough police to hand out parking and speeding tickets on a regular basis. How many crimes and everything else in this town can we prevent or lessen the effect of if we had more patrols, not cops climbing in cars, responding to, they look at their screens and their car, they've already got a 12-item to-do list that's left over from the last shift, or building. I mean, we just need more responsible, focused spending. And the people need to be able to see that return on the investment. And that's just general commentary. And again, I agree that we do have that disproportionate population of disabled veterans. But that break, we earned it. I shouldn't have to apologize for it, and I'm not going to apologize for it, and neither should anyone else. But just more focused, responsible spending. The people need to see where their money's going. They need to see results. Government spending, government taxation is a zero-sum game.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Board, I know you want to speak, but we do have two other individuals that would you like for them to go first and you go last, or you want to go now?
Sure, I'll just make this comment real quick. Not a lot. Excuse me.
Councilmember Board, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Focus and responsible spending is very important. I totally agree. And I believe the city of Killeen and the city managers have been doing that well in presenting a balanced budget every year, that budget being available on our city website. Return on investment for city services, for return on investment period for citizens is very much your city services, which you do receive. And it's good to know that our solid waste department, even if they do miss a day, Mr. Reynolds and his department make sure they get those things squared away. So that's for sure across the city. We find a way to get it done. Thank you.
Melissa Brown.
How many of our city services are still not operating properly? We spent $500,000 last year for cybersecurity, and they're still not being operated properly. Our staff isn't getting the overtime. We're Team Killeen, right? It's all about the staff. Why have we not paid to get everything decrypted? We should have insurance for it. Our insurance for it is going up according to what is in the budget amendment. So what is that insurance for if it's not to make sure our city is running properly all the time? When something happens and stuff happens, it's our responsibility to fix it as quickly as possible as a city, right? To make sure that the citizens are taken care of, to make sure that the staff is taken care of, to make sure payroll is being able to be done correctly. We're asking people to put in overtime hours that they're not going to get paid for. Our police, our firefighters, guess what? Their overtime is usually not optional. If an emergency happens and it's past their shift, they still have to arrive. That's part of their job. Is it fair to them? What about our solid waste drivers who are driving late nights because we don't have enough drivers or enough trucks or the routes are getting too overloaded and they're not getting their overtime? Where is that concern and why is there so much secrecy about it? It's my biggest question when we talk about this, and it is related because we are increasing the premium on the insurance for cybersecurity. Actually, our liability insurance is going up in general. But the city council at 1 o'clock just told us that their priority is a brand new city hall. Actually, Councilman Boyd said that his priorities are city hall and parks. We're putting parks and brand new buildings before fire stations that could be expanded. I get not putting fire stations on the ballot. That makes sense. I get not putting things on the ballot that are a requirement, but parks are not a requirement, so we should be able to vote on those. You want to see what the people have to say, you're excited to see stuff go on the ballot. Even though it's a CO, put it on the ballot anyway. You have the option. Council can say, we're going to put this on the ballot. This is all part of what's going to be coming up in our budget. So we've got the increased tax rates that are coming, the increased fees, increased rates for commercial. Our sales tax is dipping. If you actually account for inflation, we are very far in negative sales tax growth. The question was posed several weeks ago, how do we fix it? Well, one, we don't put houses on every piece of land. When we have commercial or industrial or manufacturing already there, we don't rezone it so that we can put few thousand houses or duplexes or condos with some restaurants around it and then give them incentives. We put manufacturing there, we put industry there, we put stuff that's going to actually bring more than a dozen jobs, that's going to pay people well, that's going to bring people into the city so that they can earn enough money to live here, work here, play here, spend here. We're not doing that right now. There's not been a single town hall so we could have a true back and forth about this. Not a single one. And I understand that there are a few residents, very few of us, who have the time or the knowledge or the information or the desire to go through this. But it doesn't matter if it's one citizen or 100 citizens, they all deserve your attention.
Sean Price. Sean Price. Public hearing is closed. I just would like to give some clarification on some things, and Councilmember Alvarez, you want to go before me?
Sure, why not? Thank you, Mayor. I just want to address one of the concerns that was brought up. If there's a city employee out there who is not receiving overtime or comp time for time worked, you should either provide that information to not only your HR department and the city manager, but the Department of Labor, because that's a crime. So putting that out there, I don't think that that's happening, but if it is, please take your evidence to the appropriate authorities. Don't just share it with a friend. And lastly, I've said this before, and we appreciate hearing opinions, but when it comes to financial advice, I'm not going to take financial advice from someone that's not qualified to give it. So I will defer to the city staff who are the experts on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to go over a couple of things. The $100,000 for Mr. Sluter, our lobbyist, the council do receive weekly and sometimes twice or daily, updates from Austin. Not just only what we have petitioned for, but everything that's going on in Austin when it comes to our legislator. Also, so that's some more stuff. So one of the things I heard about our roads, if you drive through the city of Killeen, and the reason people use roads, especially the ones at home, I hope you, when you look at this video, you hear what I'm saying. Roads are a big subject. Ever since the storm, that's just one of those items that everyone talks about. But if you drive through the city of Killeen on a daily basis, somewhere throughout the city, they are working on the roads. We have a limited amount of staff. The jobs are there. Even with the police department, fire department, we cannot make people fill out an application and work for the city of Killeen. And this is throughout the United States of America, where there is a shortage with the police officers, there's a shortage with the fire department. If you go back and look at our videos, this is just something we're constantly saying to you. There's a shortage everywhere. There's nothing the leadership here is doing that has made people not want to apply for the city of Killeen. But we work on our roads every day. Public Works have done an excellent job, and I'm not just putting it on Public Work. All of our executive directors, our city staff, they have done an excellent job, first of all, managing their budgets. We get audited. There is nothing wrong with our records. So when Mr. Cagle get with his executive directors along with our assistant city manager, and they go through the budget, it takes a lot of work, especially with Mr. Grady and especially our finance team. So that's the reality. You're going to hear this over and over again. People are going to come to that dais and say this, because those are trigger words that trigger you to think that this council, our staff, and our executive directors and our employees are doing something wrong. We're not. They just know how to push your button. That's not the reality of what's going on. Please go back and look at our videos. It's very important. Knowledge is power. And there's one more item I want to address. Our cybersecurity. Oh, Lord, sorry. Oof. Oh, wow. People act as if this is the first time in history that any municipality, any business, and we're talking about the major Fortune 500 businesses. We're talking about federal government having cyber attacks. So we're an exception to the rule, like that can't happen to us. But however, for the residents that are listening, none of your personal data was attacked. And the money that the council voted on for IT, it did its job. But you can't prevent an attack on anything. You have attacks in your home. So please look out in the future for buzzwords that would trigger you to think that something is going wrong in the city, and that is not the reality. Councilmember Boyd.
Was it Councilwoman Gonzalez?
I was going to make a point of order, but I'll let you go on.
Was it Councilwoman Gonzalez next to speak? Am I mistaken?
Mr. Cagle, I just wanted to confirm, as I do think it is important, and I know that we did ask initially to hear from Mr. Stanschluter. I just don't recall when those took place, but I know he was here, and then there was a representative here a second time. But typically, when we make our recommendations for the initiatives for the next legislative session, that takes place in what month generally? Is it September, October?
Yes, ma'am. It's during that time frame.
So it's coming up
Yeah, the
soon, so we'll be
legislature
able to
starts
set
in
those initiatives
January.
again for.
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, just wanted to get that on the record then. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to reiterate, my top priorities remain the same when it comes to the bond, and that's called being a strong advocate. That's the City Hall and Parkland. Let's be clear, the entire City Council has to come to an agreement on exactly what's included in that bond, not just Councilman Boyd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, can I get a motion to move, motion to set the date of September 3rd, 2024 to consider adoption of the budget?
Yes, ma'am. I make a motion to move to set the date of September 3rd, 2024 to consider adoption of our budget.
A second by Councilmember Solomon.
Second.
All right, just remember, if you have any questions about our budget, go to www.killeentexas.gov before September the 3rd. All in favor? We clicking for the record. I take this vote, I want to ensure I close the public hearing, so I'm just going to do it just in case I didn't. Public hearing, did I close it, Mr. Kagan?
You have now.
Yes, public hearing closed. Okay, the motion passes 7-0. I just want to make sure I do it twice or 3 times to make sure I don't get caught up in anything. All right, Madam Secretary.
PH 24031, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance submitted by Avanti Legacy Westwood LP on behalf of WB Whitus Investments LTD, case Z2406, to rezone approximately 3.6277 acres, being Lot 1, Block 1, Fox Creek Commercial Phase 1, from B5 Business District to a planned unit development, PUD, PUD, with R3A multifamily apartment residential district uses. The subject property is locally addressed as 3001 Illinois Avenue, Killeen, Texas. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Killeen by amending the zoning of the property locally addressed as 3001 Illinois Avenue, Killeen, Texas, to change the zoning of approximately 3.62 acres of Lot 1, Block 1, Fox Creek Commercial, Phase 1, from B5 Business District to Planned Unit Development, PUD, PUD, with R3A Multifamily Apartment Residential District, providing a savings clause, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date."
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, Mr. Revelle just went over that. Would you like for him to go back over the slides? Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here? If so, would you like to speak, sir? Good evening. Please state your name.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council, and Mr. Cagle and City Manager, Assistant, and staff, really, because they have been so helpful throughout this process. My name is Michael Temez. I'm with Madhouse Development. I'm here representing the developer entity, and I just really am here to answer any questions that the council may have. But I also just wanted to put it out there that in July we were awarded the financing that makes affordable housing possible. And that was approved by the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs at their board meeting in July. So happy to, again, answer any questions that you may have and address anything that the council may have.
Sir, thank you. Thank you for caring for our seniors. This is an amazing detailed update for a zoning item. Thank you and your team.
That. Yep.
All right, with that being said.
I did have one question, Madam Mayor.
Oh, I apologize, sir.
I like this project. What's the earliest that you'll break? I know you have to do plating and what have you.
So the state, the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, as part of their rules, have added kind of what they call a readiness to proceed point item. So we are incentivized to try and close and break ground in March. That also puts some strain on the departments and y'all's staff as well. So we apologize in the future, but that is a deadline that they've kind of set for us. But it also puts the units in the ground faster. It's just the intent behind that rule.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Public hearing is open. Mr. Michael Fernino. Welcome back.
I largely have no problem with the project in general, but there are 2 points that came up during the discussion on it. The first being, I forget if the word largely conforms or mostly conforms with architectural standards with regard to the balconies. Why do we pass these things if people don't fully conform to them? So either everybody gets a balcony or nobody gets a balcony. I mean, that's just cut and dried. But point that was brought up about the screening, concrete wall, et cetera. This is something that was on the agenda and it fell off the agenda a while back. Some points to consider on this: cost and safety. Being Italian and as far back as I could trace my roots, I think I know a little bit about concrete and cement. If concrete and cement get damaged, you can't just slap wet cement on dry cement. They're chemically different. They will not bond. So you're just going to have a constant repair issue, and that's going to drive up cost. And if it's something completely destroyed, car accident, earthquake, whatever, that's going to drive up the cost as opposed to any other material used. We just had a car wreck not too long ago where the cops chased somebody, and the guy crashed into a wooden fence, and there was a fatality. What if that fence had been concrete? I mean, that could have been a lot more catastrophic, and it was going to drive up. It would have driven up the cost exponentially if it were made out of concrete. I just think there's just that one issue right there is just something that, with the screening and the materials prescribed or recommended or suggested, is going to cause larger problems. I mean, especially on thoroughfares with higher speeds and things like that. It's a factor that needs to be considered. That's all I'm saying.
Melissa Brown. Welcome back.
Thank you. This is being billed as an affordable housing for seniors. However, if you go and look in their application, it's actually only 11 units that are going to be at the 30% AMI. 11. Their application is a public record. It's available on the Texas Department of Housing website. You can pull it down, look at the whole, I don't know, couple hundred pages that's there, and you'll be able to find that out. There will be one elevator in the entire building for 103 units, 4 stories, 1 elevator that's on the plans. I understand that this is a zoning case. However, keep in mind that it is a PUD zoning. So that means everything is considered in a PUD zoning. If it's not on paper, it doesn't happen. So in none of the plans does it show a sidewalk on Illinois. Basically, what it is, if you're on the first floor, you open your back door, you step out into the road. You're right on the curb because the setback is allowed to go all the way to the property line and there are no sidewalks. There's nothing saying they're going to be required to put sidewalks. I've read all of the PUD conditions. It's not there. It's not in their site plan. It's not in their designs. This is actually located in a risk factor area. When you go through and look, in this particular area, a person has a 1 in 144 chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime as compared to 1 in 162 in Killeen and 1 in 220 in the state of Texas. And becoming a victim of property crime, 1 in 47 as compared to 1 in 58 in the city of Killeen. So you're more likely on both of those to become a victim of crime, but we're going to put our seniors, elderly, and our people with physical disabilities there. We are allowing 40 more units than would normally be available. We are allowing for exceptions to pretty much everything. Let's face it, like all rules have been thrown out the window so this can get built. And the question is why? Why are they not required to follow any of the rules, really? Only 5% of them, or 5, are going to be put aside for mobility impaired or specialized housing needs. This zoning request was put back in February before you submitted your letter of support. So you put in a letter of support for it, I understand that, but you didn't know what it was going to look like at that time because I don't remember y'all looking over the entire application and seeing what the property was actually going to look like. I just, the application says there's no sidewalks, no bus stops, no playgrounds. It's 2.2 miles to the nearest grocery store or pharmacy. If you want to go to the urgent care, you can get there in about 1.5 miles. We're not going to have sufficient parking, or is it sufficient, but it doesn't meet the city standards. So we have standards for some, but not for all. Why are there so many exceptions being made for this? Because it is not the solving of the issue of low income that it looks like that it's being presented as, according to what is in their application and according to what is in the site plan. If you go through and read all of it, this is some smokescreen stuff. You're going to have all 1-bedroom units in here, by the way. So you have 102 1-bedroom units that are 500 square feet each, approximately. That's it. So amend the PUD, please.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to address the comment about the sidewalk. Sidewalks typically aren't shown in site plans because they're required by code. And the property line for this, I'm not an expert, but I can tell you the property line does not go to the back of the curb. There's right-of-way along the back of the curb, though there will be a sidewalk there, regardless of what you might or might not see on the site plan. The other part is, thanks to living in the United States of America in a capitalist market, if no one likes the units, they're not going to rent them. That's the developer's problem. But I guarantee you that they will rent, and they'll be full, and there'll be someone who's going to enjoy living there. So.
Ms. Brown, that is your first warning for disrupting this meeting. Councilmember Alvarez, continue, please.
Lastly, I'll say, that while we give our concerns, we have to remember that we do have lots of experts here on staff. We have engineers, we have building inspectors, we have fire inspectors, and these are the people that we trust. Not much different than the President of the United States has a cabinet of experts who give him expert advice we have experts here on staff, and they're the ones tasked with doing these things. So I understand that you may not have gone to school for engineering or building, but we have experts here, and they're telling us that these things are conforming and that it's going to be a great project. So I'm going to lean on them. So thank you again.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think it's wise to lean on the experts as well. 11 more units than we have now for senior citizens. That's a great thing about it. Victims of crime, there's commercial across the street. I know a bit about that. I don't think there's going to be a concern with crime at that location. Also, the building footprint or orientation was listed on here. And maybe the developer can speak to that. Actually, I'm not going to ask you to speak to that because you all have your reason for why you oriented the building the way it is. It might be for visibility, it might be for access, it might be for parking, landscaping. There's a ton of different reasons, so not needing you to come up and qualify that. I appreciate there's the inclusion of an elevator in the unit, and rightfully so. So it's not as if this was planned without an elevator. So I look forward to this project. It is needed, and it's going to fill a need in a section of Killeen where we're missing senior housing. So that's all I got, Madam Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam. The issue of security, I think, is very important. And during the town hall regarding the senior housing update, it was provided and touched on very briefly about the security gates, security systems. And while you cannot eliminate all types of crime, they have gone through additional proactive measures. I recommend talking to the developers if you have any additional questions about that. But they did mention there were additional measures regarding security gates, security cameras, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. And when we get through with Mr. Jason Brito, Mr. Revelle, and also, sir, you come on up, sir. You're next, Mr. Jason. And the applicant, I need the questions, agree to disagree, but whatever the residents ask, and this is important, please answer those questions when you come up here. That's all I need from you. So we have some good clarification stuff as the balcony, if one gonna have them, all gonna have them, the screening, the site. Okay, well, Mr. Cagle say he'll answer them all for you. And the sidewalk and whatever other questions you might have, sir. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello, Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, council members. This is my first time at a council meeting, so don't mind me if I'm a little nervous. But as far as that location for this project, just in the first 5 minutes of reading the proposal online, I'm an Uber driver. I drive in the early mornings, and I drive a lot of senior citizens that have to go to resources within that area. The insurance covers a lot of their trips to grocery stores, to the dialysis centers, to medical appointments. And one of the things that I've noticed in picking up a lot of what I call regulars is the fact that they're constantly moving different locations because of their housing situation. One was in North Killeen, and then all of a sudden, as I go to pick them up, they're calling me saying, hey, I'm sorry, but I moved to another location because of my housing situation. And they're, well, I'm 43 years old. They're well older than me. So I know they're well over 55. So seeing a project that can help centralize a lot of these senior citizens that would, one, benefit from the location, the adjusted AMI qualifications to get it, because I looked over, the 60%, 40%, so forth. I'm like, that's wonderful, because there's a lot of military vets and a lot of other senior citizens that can't really meet the costs of a lot of the housing areas around here. And because it's an apartment complex, it's definitely great for them to be centralized in one location, secure location, because how many times I've been Ubering since October, and I see a lot of concerned seniors out there like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Thank God, because sometimes I'll go to a location and they're not even where the insurance sends me. I end up having to call them and find them with my secondary phone, and I go and I get them to where they need to be, because that's just the kind of person I am. But this project, oh my God, it's awesome to see that. My first meeting here, I've heard one thing or another. I commend all of you, because it's not an easy job to be up there and do what you do. All the projects, everything that I've seen today, it's just amazing, because there's nobody in the city of Killeen loses. We're talking about water, we're talking about infrastructure, business, all kinds of stuff. It's just improving. I love it. One last thing, I'm kind of jittery and all that, so But that project, I wish I could speak on all the projects right now, but that one is dear to me because I'm seeing a lot of scared seniors. I'm seeing a lot of nervous seniors. One I picked up from, let's see, there's a apartment complex right over here in this location, kind of really run down. And I'm just glad to see that there's a place that's coming up, and I know I'll see him again, because I've seen him numerous times, that I can be like, hey, guess what? Something's happening to benefit you. Get ready for it. So, I don't know if I'm supposed to say particular things like, hey, I'm for the project, and I'm sure, like, as I see more and more citizens out there, that I'm going to hear the same thing, because they are concerned about their well-being. I'm dumbfounded at the fact that I had no idea stuff like this was going on in Killeen, and I'm so glad, especially with the fact that even my councilman has been very open and transparent with answering all my questions, and even, when I don't understand something, get a full explanation of it. The city of Killeen, where's the cameras at? All of you watching out there, reach out to your councilman and talk to them, because these issues matter. And I guarantee you, the people I'm looking at right now are the right people to handle the job. I got 20 seconds left. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public hearing is closed, and I just want to say, as far as the senior apartments, there are a lot of senior apartments coming up in the city. But in our city, we have grown out, because where we have our grocery stores and things that are maybe of convenience, there's something already built around it. So if we can get one within 2 miles or 1 mile from a grocery store, we're doing good. And I'm very grateful for this project. But Mr. Cagle, there are some questions that you said you would answer. The balcony, the screening, and sidewalk, please.
Yes, ma'am, it was difficult to keep up with all that misinformation, so I try to just grab the biggest ones. But the one that's completely false is if there's not something on paper in the PUD, it doesn't apply. That's absolutely false. It demonstrates a clear lack of understanding of the process. What the PUD is an individual comes in and asks for some relief on some forms of the base zoning in exchange for higher standards in other areas of the zoning. And that's what we did in this process. And still, the base zoning applies. If base zoning wasn't changed in that process, it still applies. And I believe that had the answers the balconies, answers those questions. The idea of building a screening wall out of masonry is dangerous. I don't understand that. By that logic, we should build all our fences out of paper, because they're if they're run into, they're easier to put up. And so I don't know if I covered all the questions, but those are the big ones that I heard.
Yes, sir. I'm just going over it. All right. So with that being said, Councilman Boyd, a motion? Oh, do you have anything you want to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And before you say that, sir, Mr. Jason, if you would like to speak on the rest of the public hearing items, you can. You just have to go up here, since this is your first time, and fill out the form. So another thing, you went in and out with praising the council, so I couldn't hit you on that. But when you do, you can speak, but it has to be on the agenda item. Yes, sir. But thank you. Oh, no, you first time. But thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm going to make a motion here to approve this without further delay. Make a motion to approve PH-24-031.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Madam Mayor, I second the motion.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0, and Mr. Revelle and Sir, the applicant, thank you both, and thank you for coming tonight. Madam Secretary.
PH 24032, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance, case Z 2411, to rezone lots 1 through 6 and 8 through 16, Block 1 Sunrise Vista from B3 Local Business District to R3F Multifamily Residential District. These properties are locally addressed as 1100 through 1102 and 1104 through 1115 Horizon Drive, Killeen, Texas. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Killeen by amending the zoning of properties locally addressed as 1100 through 1102 and 1104 through 1115 Horizon Drive, Killeen, Texas, to change the zoning of lots 1 through 6 and lots 8 through 16, Block 1, Sunrise Vista, from B3 Local Business District to R3F Multifamily Residential District, providing a savings clause, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date."
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is the applicant here? All right, we will open up our public hearing. Mr. Fernino, welcome back, sir. Before you speak, Mr. Fernino, counsel, anybody want Mr. Revelle to go through it? No? Okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Fernino. Apologize.
On this, I'm just actually shocked that we're actually not converting something into R1. We're converting from R1 to business on 2 acres of land. Congratulations. That's the way we need to go. Imagine if we had more available land and we could do that more often and actually convert ag land into businesses, a company, manufacturing. Imagine if we had Dell or Toyota in this town based on that. Just saying, this is the right step. So, I mean, I'm pleased as punch to say this is unusual. Folks at home, mark the calendar, because this is something that doesn't often happen. So, congratulations, well done. And rock beats paper, Mr. Cagle. I don't know which one you'd want to run your car into.
Public hearing closed. Can I get a motion to approve PH-24-032? Councilmember Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve PH 24-032.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm going to second that.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Madam Secretary.
PH 24033, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance submitted by Quintero Engineering LLC on behalf of JSCH Properties LLC and Earl Horn, case Z2415, to rezone approximately 1.9 acres out of the George W. Cartwright Survey, abstract number 159, from R1 Single Family Residential District to B3 Local Business District. The subject property is locally addressed as 7003 East Rancier Avenue, Killeen, Texas. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Killeen by amending the zoning of the property locally addressed as 7003 East Rancier Avenue, Killeen, Texas, to change the zoning of approximately 1.9 acres out of the George W. Cartwright Survey, abstract number 159, from R1 Single Family Residential District to B3 Local Business District, providing a savings clause, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date."
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, Mr. Revelle went through them. Would you like for him to go back through the slides? Thank you. Public hearing open. Public hearing closed. Councilmember Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve, excuse me, bear with me, Council, I'm sorry. PH 24-033.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Madam Secretary.
PH 24034, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance submitted by Gina Cannon on behalf of Morris Venture Partners 5 LLC, case Z2416, to rezone a part of Lot 1, Block 1, 190 Retail Center, 3rd Edition, from B5 Business District to BC1 General Business and Alcohol Sales District. The subject property is locally addressed as 1600 Lowe's Boulevard, Suites 600 and 800, Killeen, Texas. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Killeen by amending the zoning of the property locally addressed as 1600 Lowe's Boulevard, Suites 600 and 800, Killeen, Texas, to change the zoning of a portion of Block 1, Lot 1, 190 Retail Center, 3rd Edition, from B5 Business District to BC1 General Business and Alcohol Sales District, providing a savings clause, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date."
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, Mr. Revelle went through the slides. Would you like for him to go back through them? Is the applicant here? Good evening, sir.
My name is Mark Coley. I'm the general manager of our location at Azura, along with Integrity Now Bar. We currently have managed an operation with the same thing. We were just in front of City Council 2 years ago, do the same exact thing on another location. During this time frame, we've had no issues, no problems, no response, no call-outs from Killeen Police Department for any type of actions happening there. Our main thing is not to bring forward to say, okay, hey, everyone can come out and have a drink. Yes, it is open. But in the same environment, we're not publishing out there and advertising, actively marketing that, hey, this has a bar inside this location. We're notifying the public's available for it. And I'm here to answer any questions for the council.
Thank you, sir. There are no questions for you. Thank you. Public hearing is open. Michael Fornino.
I first have a question on this one. Being Italian, I also know quite a few barbers.
Sir, please hold. Ma'am, you cannot be interrupting Mr. Fornino and having a conversation.
I was not being interrupted.
That's Mr. Fornino, I'm talking. Now I'm being interrupted by you. Please do not make up any noise. Sir, you can continue.
As I said, I know quite a few barbers, and I know that this is not an exact fit, but a nail salon is in that realm. I could not find the answer. I know the answer's out there. A concern from public health standpoint. Barbershops cannot serve food and beverage typically due to health concerns. I'll defer to anybody who's more medically inclined and knows the health code system better than I do. I just recall that that could be a conflict. I don't care what it's zoned as, but that's a matter of concern. I mean, we can zone it as anything, but there might be other agencies and departments in the city and the county that might want to just double check with that, have somebody sink money into something that could have other problems. On the other side of it, where I do have a problem is, a concern, is that's not a typical parking lot. That's where you have a lot of kids running in and out of the shoe stores and Kohl's and this and that, and you add alcohol consumption in there. Now, I'm not as big a drinker as some of you are, but when it comes to that, do you really want alcohol in the mix in a parking lot like that? I just question the judgment. These are just concerns. I mean, it's not the typical place. I mean, you take any of the other bistros like TGI Fridays or Chili's or anything like that, or Back Porch, any of those stuff, they are away from other businesses where that sort of activity is expected, legal, and just fine. But when you add alcohol into that particular commercial and retail setting, you're adding a little bit of different dynamic. And then I had to laugh a little when I said, what was it, 117 or 171 trips extra or whatever it was, the factor. Well, then if you're going to increase the traffic due to alcohol being offered there in a busy parking lot, again, there's a concern that I don't think anybody's taken a harder look at. I mean, again, the other drinking establishments, they sit far and away from other stuff where there's not as much other random activity or disassociated activity in business. There's just a few moving wheels in this proposal that I think need to be looked at a little bit harder. I mean, just some way to negate any safety concerns. Because the last thing you need is some kid coming out, "Mom, I love my new Skechers," and then splat right there in the parking lot. I'm not saying everybody goes get their nail done and has a glass of wine with the girls or whatever happens in those places. Not saying that that's, you're going to have typical drunk parties, but I think that there's a way to look at and maybe mitigate the risk factor a little bit more, be a little bit more responsible.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. Want to just clarify a couple things in regards to the public health concern that was brought up. Bell County Public Health is a part of the city's certificate of occupancy process. They are one of the agencies that have to sign off during that process. Your other concern, I do understand your concern about kids being in the area, but a lot of that, you see that everywhere you go. They serve beer at Chuck E. Cheese now. Mr. Gaddyland is right next to Little Tokyo, which serves alcohol. It's one of those things to where you hope everyone uses good judgment. They do have another location that they're currently doing this at, and the fact that they've received no calls for service, I think, is an example right there. So thank you, though.
Are there any other comments? Okay. Melissa Brown. Welcome back.
So the conversation I was whispering that absolutely no one could hear, was to make sure that I didn't come up with. If you would let me finish, I'm on the agenda because it was to make sure I wasn't going to come up here and give incorrect information. I was asking a question to the representative to make sure that the information I'm about to say was true, so that we don't have any false information going around, right? Meanwhile, I've sat here and watched you have conversations all night. But on that, when the first time this came up to planning and zoning, because this came to planning and zoning twice, the first time it came to planning and zoning, it was actually majority voted for disapproval. The second time it came, by that point, they had already done the renovations. They had already built out the bar. At least one of the commissioners had been there and said, "Oh, look, it looks very nice. It's already done. They've already put the money and the work into it." Then it got recommended for approval. I spoke against it the first time, because we already have what the people I talk to, we call restaurant row. I'm sure you all know what it means. As soon as you get past Academy, it's restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and that's what you see. Almost until you get to the car dealerships, basically. So by adding more alcohol service right in there, we're just going to turn it into Alcohol Alley. And apparently that's fine. If that's what y'all want to do, then that's what you can do. I'm glad they haven't had any calls for service on Clear Creek in a strip mall. That is a completely different setting, where kids are not normally going to be around, families aren't going to be around. It's not the same locale, and I understand that risk is everywhere, but mitigating the risk is also something that needs to be considered. On that, though, I've had the most interesting conversation over the last 24 hours because apparently your vote tonight has already been predetermined, and it's more just a formality. They are already serving alcohol there. They are already functioning as a bar, even though they're not zoned BC1. So at this point, what the hell, right? Go ahead and approve it, so at least that way they're legal in what they're doing. That was the question I had to stop and ask the GM, to make sure before I came up and said they are already serving alcohol, I wasn't going to come up with any misinformation from Facebook. And he said, yes, we are. It's fine. I suppose, as long as the council's okay with it. Police haven't been called out, code hasn't been called out, TABC hasn't been called out. But I think in the future, maybe this is something to take into consideration, because one of the things that the citizen was arguing with me about is, no, it's already been approved. The council is supporting it, because the council, and the mayor is definitely supporting it, because the mayor and the council came out and did the ribbon cutting, and they know that the alcohol is already being served, even though this hasn't come up here. Again, it's not, at this point, even about the zoning, it's about making sure the law is being followed. So why make them stop what they're doing, right? Go ahead and make it legal.
Public hearing is closed. Here I go again. Welcome back. My comments on that. I am the mayor of the city of Killeen. Some say the 19th largest city, and I've also, in Texas now. Now, I also heard the 16th when I was at the event. I take pride in that. Do you know how many people invite me to the ribbon cuttings, baby showers, and come to their church, baptism? I'm the mayor. So why wouldn't I be invited by the Killeen Chamber, who we support?
Point of order.
I'm on what, Mr. Sagara?
We're going off the agenda here.
Agenda is talking about, I was accused of going to this place and they was doing alcohol. This is the agenda item we're talking about. So thank you very much for that.
Can I make a motion? Can I make a motion?
I'm talking, and that's being very rude when I'm on the agenda. This is not going to be a debate. Back on the subject. When I am accused of being at a grand opening and there is alcohol being served, I didn't see any alcohol being served. But, oh yeah, it's on Facebook, so it's got to be true. But that's what they live on, Facebook. So for my reputation, that is not true. That is a blatant, false narrative in their mind that I was aware of alcohol. And as I stated earlier, people come up here to use buzzwords just to get your attention. But the reality of it is, it does not make it true. Now, Councilmember Sagara, you can give a motion now.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve PH 24-034. Oh, was that it? Yeah.
Sir, it's PH-24-033. Now, Councilmember Boyd, you can second that motion.
Madam Mayor? It's a
3-4.
Yes, thank you.
You can second that motion.
A second.
All in favor, yes?
I just had a
All-
comment. I had a comment as well.
Oh, please do. Please, make sure you're on the agenda now.
Sure, this potential rezoning does not contribute or create or establish an alcohol alley. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All in favor, yes? All opposed, no. Motion carries 6-1. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
PH 24035. Hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Killeen, providing for amendments to the subdivision plat approval process. The caption of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Killeen, Texas, amending Chapter 26 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Killeen, providing for amendments to the subdivision plat approval process, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for a severability clause, providing for a savings clause, providing for publication and an effective date."
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. Council, Mr. Revelle went over the slides. Would you like for him to go back over it? No. All right. Public hearing is open. We have Mr. Fernino. Welcome back, sir. Thank you so kindly, sir. Melissa Brown, welcome back.
You can interpret it however you want to, but the charter, section 27, powers of the city council, number 7, adopt plats. And I understand that that is a power that may be exercised by the council, and that years ago, that was already delegated to the Planning and Zoning Committee, or Commission. I think it's prudent to have more than one person reviewing the plats. This isn't going to save staff any time other than putting together a presentation, and I've been there, I've seen the presentations. They're pretty straightforward, and it looks like it could probably be even a cut and paste. You put the pictures in, you tell them what that, hey, everything is within the guidelines, they vote. It's not gonna cost anyone any more money out of pocket to wait 2 weeks for it to go to a planning and zoning meeting. But what Killeen has is a trust issue. You can say whatever you want to. Yep, I know, buzzword trust, right? No, the citizens don't trust the city right now. If you listen, if you actually engage, if you read comments, if you take phone calls, if you listen to emails, there is a trust issue between the citizens and the people sitting up in front of me right now. And unfortunately, that gets passed on to staff. So there's a trust issue here. Now there's a trust issue with staff. Staff's just telling them what they want to hear. Staff is it. What I'm basically getting at is you want to avoid the appearance of impropriety. When you have a single person who works on the staff, who works with the same developers all the time, then the impression becomes that you're friends and you may be more willing to let things slip a little bit. I don't think it hurts anybody to still have this go to planning and zoning. I think that it helps build the public trust the more that there is transparency. Take this away, put it just into staff, transparency goes away on platting. Half the time, I learn about what's coming up because I see preliminary plats coming in. These preliminary plats come in pretty quick. It makes it easy to see exactly what's happening and be able to address things. But if that's only handled by staff and no single staff member is listed, then we're gonna take away any platting requirements for North Killeen revitalization. And if you look at the 30-page ordinance, the amount of red and blue in there is astounding. I don't know if any of you actually read all 30 pages of the revised or proposed revised ordinance, but there's a lot more changes in it than just the planning and zoning isn't going to review the plats anymore. I think it needs to be looked at a minimum, table it. It's not going to hurt to wait a couple weeks until the first meeting in September when you have a chance to read it and think it over. But I want you to really, please think about the transparency aspect of it, which is something I've come up here and I've said multiple times tonight, right? Transparency will build trust. If you want to represent the citizens and look out for us and start rebuilding that trust, keep the transparency there, just let planning and zoning keep the platting approval.
Mr. Price, would you like to speak on this too? Yes. Yes, sir. Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a little slow today.
Take your time.
Getting old can suck sometimes. Yeah, so I was reading on this, and it just caught my eye, you know, the changes, right? That we're going to change the ordinance here. And at first glance, I got through it, and I was like, oh, well, this is making it easier. This is making it easier. But then I started getting to the point that, well, we're removing the oversight. And I'm like, okay, well, this gets back to what the original problem was with older city councils is that, hey, you know, if I scratch your back, you scratch my back, right? So this invites that. And I would suggest that you really, really iron out exactly what you want to omit or what you want to add into this thing. Because at first glance, it looks a lot, it's very complicated, right? There's a lot of movements in there for something that should be an easy process. I agree that something needs to be done. The process is extra stupid and super tight. But to just let it all go and fly like a kite, yeah, I don't think that we really need to do it in that manner. You know, I do think that there needs to be the double check or the double check and then the sign off, right? Pretty much what most military crews do is you got the double check, you got the operator, then you got the supervisor of the operator. They checked everything, it's all good to go, and then, okay, send it over to the boss. They see no issue with it and it's done, right? I don't think that process costs too much more money, but at first glance, it's good. Then when you start getting into the weeds down about page 15 or 20, yeah, it gets concerning. So I would say please take a second look at this. Please reread this and get into the weeds with it, because I don't want to see the city go back to scratch my, you know, if you scratch my back, I got your back. I don't think we need to go back to that. I think we need to just move forward with the believing in our city government. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Mr. Price, as you walking off, no, you can go take your seat. The planning and zoning, Mr. Revelle, did you not say planning and zoning voted unanimously to give it back to the city because we're transparent and they trust us? Is that not what you said in your slides? So maybe I missed that. They didn't have a problem with us taking it back. Is that correct?
They didn't take a vote, Mayor, but they, what I said in the slides is they agreed. The general consensus in the discussion was that they agreed with the approach in terms of basically making the planning process administrative. You know, there is.
Is that what they agreed to it? So
Yes.
you took it to them, so the city was transparent by taking it back to
Yes.
planning and zoning, and they
Yes.
entrusted us that we could take over and do the job. Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much. With that being said, Councilwoman Cobb?
Good evening, everyone. I know it's been a long day. But Mr. Price, I have to say something to you. When it comes to people making decisions, I regard my integrity. Sometimes I miss a spot.
Council,
But no one scratches another man or woman's back. We do our job, and we do it hard. It may seem that it comes easy, but I'm willing to stand that we stand for what is right. There's no scratcher back.
thank you. Council Member Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to add, you know, the state legislature made this change, allows the city to do this. The city charter says may, so there's no requirement to do this. Staff, which are the experts, there's nobody on P&Z up here on council or out in the audience that has AICP after their name, not to my knowledge. So we're not the experts. If they're saying that it meets the requirements and the state is saying that we cannot turn it down if it meets the requirements, you have to pass it. What are we talking about here? You want to get an extra set of untrained, unqualified eyes on a plat after the experts are already telling you that it meets the requirements set out by state and local laws and that you must pass it. You shall pass it. Why extend the process, cause more work for staff to take it to the P&Z? That's just another item. Yeah, they're going to have another P&Z meeting, but that's another item that they have to prep to take there. So it does cost more staff time. Why? We talk about being efficient. and responsible with taxpayer dollars, but we're trying to add more hurdles to satisfy a few who come up here and say us and we, the people, when they're standing up here alone. You're not a representative of this, of every citizen here in Killeen. So please stop saying us and we and say I and me. Thank you.
Is it possible to make a motion, madam, on this?
Yes, ma'am.
If I make a motion,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I heard something, I'm sorry.
I thought I did. I'm sorry. You have the floor. You making the, public hearing closed. Motion.
Thank you, madam. I move to consider the ordinance PH 24035.
Thank you. Second. Councilmember Alvarez. Sorry, y'all. Adams popping A. Alvarez, it's you, sir.
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Madam Secretary, would you please read item 22 and 23 together because they're similar discussion items?
Yes, Madam Mayor. DS 24052, discuss and consider the October City Council meeting schedule. DS 24053, discuss and consider the December City Council meeting schedule.
Thank you. Mr. Cagle.
Yes, ma'am. So when we look at our October schedule, we would normally have an Tuesday, October 1st meeting and a Tuesday, October 15th meeting, but I believe we will not have a quorum due to AUSA October 15th meeting. So the suggestion then is to move the second meeting in October to Tuesday, October 22nd.
Can I get a motion of direction to say that one more time, Mr. Cagle?
Yes, ma'am. It would be to move the regular Tuesday, October 15th meeting to Tuesday, October 22nd.
Councilman Solomon?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make a motion of direction to move the October the 15th City Council meeting to October the 22nd.
Mayor Pro Tem? Did you say second? All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion of direction carries 6-0. Let the record show that Councilmember Adams is in the back. All right, the next item is my item that I wanted to discuss, DS-24-053, and discuss and consider the December City Council meeting schedule. For December, I'm proposing to the council that we have it on the first and second Tuesday. That would give staff the opportunity, especially kids will be out during that time. They will have a total of 3 weeks, if I counted that right. 1, 2, 3 weeks, and we'll come back and pick up again in January the 7th. And also, we have staff members and that have kids in school in that time frame. They will be out, give them more time, quality time, to spend with their family. We have it the first 2 weeks in December, and the rest of the time would be their time to spend with their kids. Because most, I know when I work, I take off in the Christmas when my daughter was off. To spend more time. So can I get a motion of direction to have our December meetings the first 2 weeks in December? Councilmember Boyd?
I make a motion to move the December 2024 meetings to the first and second week of the month of December.
Thank you. Councilmember Solomon?
I second.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0, and that was our first in December. We'll have our council meetings the first 2 weeks back to back. We have one more item, and that's a council member request for a future agenda item. This is not up for discussion. The individual, Councilwoman Cobb, would just say what she wants after the Madam Secretary read it, and we'll do a motion of direction. You accept it or you don't. Madam Secretary.
RQ 24009, presentation regarding the Women in Municipal Government Conference.
Councilwoman Cobb.
Good evening once again. I had the absolute pleasure of attending a conference. Sometimes we get and we say, well, what are they doing? How are they broadening themselves as they lead? Our city have a multiple of women leaders. I was so excited when I got off that plane to come back because I wanted it to be known to our mayor and to Mr. Cagle that we have a way. That there was doing this conference, and I know you say, well, what about the men city councilmen? Well, we get a chance to attend council meetings with the men and with the I know, Mayor.
What do you want on the agenda?
I would just like for this agenda to allow us to discuss offering the women in municipal government an opportunity to attend this conference so that they could be aware of, no one was aware of it. The learning, the expertise, the leadership, how it would help our YAC, how it would help for us. We even had infrastructure hubs, how we learn to do infrastructure, how we formate and talk about grants and the information needed in the city. We were actually taught those things, how to go about it in a different kind of way. I just think it'd be wonderful.
So I guess I'm trying to understand. Because the council can go to whatever training they would like to go.
Yes, but if they're not aware of it, I'm asking like on the list, like with your TMC and with other things that we properly are aware of, that it's listed there so we'll know that we can go. So that they'll know. I don't think some of the ladies knew that they could go. Did they know through TLC, Texas League of Cities?
I guess
What's your question? Tell me. Let me have it.
Do you want to put the item on the agenda so you can?
I would like to put it on the agenda.
Can you please?
Yes.
Not interrupt me.
Okay, come on.
Do you want the item on the agenda for you to discuss about the event that you attended?
I would like for it to be on there for me to discuss so that we can always be aware of it.
Okay, so now the motion of direction, what she's looking for, council, that what I got, Councilwoman Cobb attended a conference and she wanted to brief the conference to the council.
I do.
And anybody that's listening to let them know that this conference is available for you to attend.
Yes.
And that's what she wants to go in more detail, and she requesting to put it on the agenda. So Councilmember Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move that we place on the agenda of our second meeting in September, the presentation on the women's.
Could you read what she wants?
Yes,
So for the
presentation
record?
on the Women's in Municipal Government Conference.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I second that.
All in favor of this motion of direction to put the Women in Municipal Government Conference for Councilwoman Cobb to discuss her trip on September the 2nd, the second Tuesday. Did you say second Tuesday? And we don't meet on second Tuesday in September. So the third Tuesday in September.
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion of direction? Yes. All opposed? No. The motion of direction carries 6-1 with Councilmember Sagara in opposition. All in favor, yes? Y'all voted. Can I get a motion to adjourn? I apologize. Motion to adjourn, Councilmember Solomon.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Councilmember Adams.
I second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.